Chapter 580. While Han Xiao was trading with Rockfess, dozens of battleships carrying 200,000 mercenaries were heading toward planet Sunil. The star map in the cockpit flashed. The closer they got to planet Sunil, the more excited Herluz became. The other Sunil mercenaries were also excited. They were all too clear about the predicament of their race. Due to the catastrophe, the death rate of the young adults had always been high. Their compatriots were living in an abyss of suffering. Now, there was finally hope to completely solve this problem. These warriors who had sacrificed their lives for their race were all extremely excited and grateful to Han Xiao. This day has finally come. Herluz took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Outside the porthole, planet Sunil was in sight. The fleet landed quickly as if the ground had crashed into them. The main city of planet Sunil was still Forest City. All the upper echelons had received the news long ago and ran out to welcome them. Army troops in Sunil armor lined up to welcome them, filling up a large empty space. Spaceships landed one after another, and the players walked out one after another. They immediately saw the neat Sunil armored troops. The sun reflected off the steel battlefront, exuding a silent and stern aura. "Thank you, Black Star Corps, for lending us a helping hand. Welcome, everyone." The Sunil upper echelon stepped out and was about to give a speech, but halfway through, the 200,000 people dispersed. Many players had their arms around the shoulders of the confused armored soldiers. "Yo, this is Planet Sunil. It's exactly the same as in the video. Come, big brother, let's take a picture together." Upon arriving at a new planet, the players immediately started to have fun. The Sunil upper echelon's face twitched, and he did not know what to say. He turned around and saw Herluz walk out from the crowd. Only then did he feel energized and respectfully greeted him. "It's all thanks to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to invite Black Star's people." The Sunil upper echelon was grateful. "You should be thanking Black Star even more. If he hadn't given me the chance to follow him back then, Planet Sunil wouldn't be in this situation now." Herluz had a serious expression on his face. In this aspect, he felt that he had gained a huge advantage and did not contribute that much. Now that Black Star was a Calamity Grade Super, he no longer lacked Grade B officers under his command. Rather than saying that he was giving his life to the Black Star Corps in exchange for Black Star's help, it would be better to say that it was Black Star taking the initiative to help Black Star. After the Dark Star incident, Herluz had a deeper understanding of Han Xiao. Going against a galactic terrorist organization for the sake of his hometown, this was way too bold. He was practically a righteous comrade with a noble character and a great personality. Helping Sunil might be because Black Star simply wanted to save them and did not ask for any benefit. Herluz's impression of Han Xiao had long been off the chart. He was so grateful that he wanted to sacrifice his life for him and use his body as a shield. Hearing this, the Sunil upper echelons nodded solemnly. They owed Black Star too much. First, he allowed the Sunil mercenaries to receive better jobs to reduce the casualties of their compatriot. Now, he even generously sent a large number of people to help for a small fee. What a good person! After arranging the 200,000 mercenaries, the Sunil upper echelons spread the news of the Black Star Corps' reinforcements to the entire race, letting countless Sunils know that a turning point had arrived. In the streets and alleys, countless people lowered their heads and prayed with tears in their eyes. The influence of the name Black Star on this land rapidly increased. Herluz led the Sunil mercenaries on the streets and received the grateful gazes of the civilians. Feeling the flames of hope reigniting in this city, he was filled with many emotions. Herluz had seen the characteristics of the players and firmly believed that the catastrophe would be completely resolved. However, he suddenly thought of a problem. When the problem of the race is resolved, where should I go? Confusion was like a bullet that hit his heart. That's right, I went out as a mercenary to fight for the race. Once the crisis of the race is resolved, Do I still need to be a mercenary? Herlu's footsteps paused, and he fell into a dilemma. When he thought of how Black Star had helped him but had to leave after the matter was settled, he felt a sense of guilt for betraying Han Zhao's trust. He felt very apologetic. Then, should he continue to stay by Black Star's side and repay his kindness? Thinking of his noisy mercenary companions, thinking of seeing the lives of different planets and species, thinking of Black Star's majestic and reliable back, Herlu's furrowed brows slowly relaxed. Other than the race, he felt like he had a second home. Without the burden of the race in the future, I might even be able to save some money and find a beautiful wife to marry. Herlu's mood brightened up again, and he had unlimited expectations for the future. On the other side, the players who entered Forest City were warmly welcomed by the Sunils, who lined the streets to welcome them. I didn't expect the name of the Black Star Corps to be so useful. Everyone was amazed. After experiencing it for themselves, the players realized that the influence of their faction was greater than they had imagined. The name of the Black Star Corps seemed to have a lot of influence. 200,000 players wandered around Forest City. The upper echelons of the Sunils were still formulating a plan, and the employment had not officially started. At this time, no one would stop the players from moving around freely. Many of them used the old method and triggered additional missions from different characters. They also found equipment stores, skill instructors, item stores, and other functional locations. As a civilization, the Sunils had most of the functions of an NPC resource site, and could satisfy the needs of a large number of players. Not long after, the players were gathered and recruited. The Sunils listed a large number of missions, including exploring the wilderness, collecting information on beasts, clearing beast strongholds, taking back abandoned resource sites, excavating new mineral veins, and so on. There were all kinds of jobs. After accepting the missions, the player's interface would automatically trigger the corresponding missions. It meant that the players could also obtain a lot of EXP from these missions other than the employment missions. The good missions were quickly snatched up, and the most popular one was naturally the mission to snatch resource site. Most of these resources were materials, so the players could take some while they were snatching them. The resource site missions were basically split among the guild players, but if the Sunils wanted to completely solve the catastrophe, there was still a lot of work to be done. All 200,000 players could receive missions. After accepting these missions, the players also triggered a faction mission series. The requirement was to help the Sunils solve the catastrophe, but it had nothing to do with the employment missions. Even if they were not mercenaries, they could still come and help the Sunils, triggering the mission series. In fact, the employment missions that the players received were the real bonus reward. This was the benefit of joining the Black Star Corps faction. The missions were like carrots hanging above the players' heads, and the 200,000 players of planet Sunil could not wait to work. A few days later, Black Star Base No. 1, Machinery Modification Workshop. Countless mechanical arms were assembling mechanical soldiers one after another. Han Zhao was working in front of the lathe, focusing on building the Mech Legion when his communicator suddenly rang. Who's looking for me? Han Zhao put down the things in his hands and took out the communicator. All kinds of possibilities flashed through his mind. Maybe it was Ames urging him, maybe it was the Norios Financial Group starting to organize the logistics, or maybe it was some players who messed up the mission and the employer came to complain. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. He glanced at the communicator and was surprised to see that it was an unfamiliar call. The call connected, and an unfamiliar figure appeared on the screen. The moment he opened his mouth, he questioned Han Zhao fiercely. Black Star, where did you put my people? Your people? Han Zhao asked back. Befuely, don't tell me you forgot. The other party's tone was dark. Where have I heard this name before? Han Zhao stroked his chin and suddenly remembered. Wasn't this the Esper with the fiery eyes? Pui, the fire-breathing Esper who wanted to steal his spaceship and ended up becoming his prisoner. He had his super genes extracted every day and squeezed out hundreds of bottles of gene potions. Now, he was so skinny that he was on the verge of death. Therefore, the other party was Purple Snake Sykes, Befuli's boss, the captain of the Purple Snake Space Pirate. So, it's you. Han Shao raised his brows. Your people wanted to steal my spaceship and you dare to look for me personally? Where did Befuli go? Did you kill him? The standard answer to this question should be, take a guess. Sykes' expression was dark. Black Star, hand over my people, and I can pretend that this never happened. Han Shao exclaimed exaggeratedly. Your people stole my spaceship and were caught by me. Now, you want me to let them go and pretend that nothing happened? You don't look like much, but you sure are dreaming. Should I thank you? Humph, Black Star, you're really as talkative as the rumors say. However, did you think I would look for you without any preparation? How do you think I found your contact information? Sykes revealed a cold smile, and his tone was filled with an inexplicable confidence. I'm talkative? Who the F***ck spread it? No, this was not the main point. Han Shao came back to his senses and immediately understood what Sykes was relying on. His expression became helpless. Who did you catch? Sykes smirked, pressed a button, and the image changed to a cell. A group of people were tied together. Han Shao took a closer look and confirmed that they were players. They were probably players who were heading to other employment locations and were kidnapped by Sykes' people on the way. This meant that the other party's people had secretly infiltrated the Garten star system from the Fawn star system. Black Star, hand over Befuli. Otherwise, you can forget about ever seeing your mercenaries again. The image disappeared and returned to Sykes' face. Let's discuss this. Han Shao pondered for a while and said, Why don't you kill the hostage? There are news reports about you all over the street. Do you think I'm blind? There are hundreds of thousands of immortal mercenaries under you. Killing them is useless. However, many organizations probably want to study this group of immortals and will definitely be willing to fork out money. So, listen up. I'll only give you 5 days to send Befuli to the designated barren planet. If you don't see Befuli, or if you want to play some tricks, my pirate gang will specifically capture your mercenaries and sell them to other star clusters. Sykes' tone was threatening, knowing that he had grasped Han Zhao's weakness. All right. Han Zhao's mouth twitched. Remember, 5 days. After emphasizing this, Sykes decisively hung up the communication. If not for his trusted subordinate being captured, he would not have wanted to provoke Black Star. Thankfully, there was no need to hand over the hostage face to face. Sykes was not prepared to appear personally and only sent his subordinates to the Garten star system. He himself was far away in the Fawn star system, safety first. Han Shao rubbed his brows with a helpless expression. The players were not strong enough yet, and if they were to go out and carry out missions, they would encounter something like this sooner or later. However, he did not expect it to come so quickly. The players being kidnapped was their own fate. He was not a nanny, and logically speaking, he would not care about such matters. However, Sykes was a calamity-grade super, and he had his eyes on the Black Star core. This was a hidden danger, and it seemed like he really had to do something personally. F***ck, I can't even rest for a few days. Now, I don't even have the leisure time to create cuties. Han Shao was filled with resentment, and he came to the cell where Befuli was locked up. Looking at the unconscious Befuli, he placed an observer's mark on him. Isn't it good to be alive? I almost forgot about finding trouble with you guys. In the Garten star system, a Purple Snake Space pirate gang pillaging spaceship was quietly floating in the universe. In the dark cell of the spaceship, the kidnapped players were gathered together, and there were galactic pirates guarding the door. President, I feel that we have been a little unlucky recently. Poseidon, a core member of the Guild of Gods, turned around and looked at President Jupiter. Recently? Damn it, we have always been unlucky. Who are you looking down on? Jupiter's face was dark, and he did not even want to say anything. He had originally chosen a decent mission and was prepared to lead the important members of the guild to complete this mission. However, before they reached the location, they were suddenly robbed by galactic pirates while eating hot pot and singing. Is the universe so dangerous? It feels like the security here is even worse than Blue Star. MMP. Vice President Shiva said calmly, looks like we have encountered an emergency. Maybe it's a hidden mission. That's what you said when we were at a disadvantage last time. Poseidon was not polite at all. This time, the galactic pirates guarding the spaceship roared, "Who allowed you to chat? Shut up." Everyone looked up and glanced at him, then ignored him and continued chatting. The galactic pirates guarding the spaceship choked and wanted to pull out their guns and shoot all the hostages. However, their boss had given them a strict order. They were only allowed to guard and not kill. Killing was equivalent to letting the hostages go. The hostages were not even afraid of death, so what was there to threaten? The galactic pirates guarding the spaceship had no choice but to endure the fact that these hostages were even more arrogant than him. His face turned red and he felt very wronged. Bang! At this time, the spaceship suddenly shook, and then screams came from the cabin in the distance. What happened? The galactic pirates guarding the spaceship were shocked. They wanted to go and check, but when they turned around they saw a majestic figure blocking their way, blocking all the light. Their height only reached the waist of this figure. "I'm requisitioning this spaceship." This figure's tone was indifferent, but his voice was like thunder. Before the galactic pirates guarding the spaceship could react, they felt a strong force coming from the side. The force was extremely fast, and there was no way to dodge. The tall figure casually slapped the galactic pirates guarding the spaceship away. The galactic pirates crashed into the wall and exploded into minced meat. Jupiter and the others looked at this figure. Chapter 581. The location of the exchange was an uninhabited planet with a serial number. Both parties would not meet, and Han Shao would leave after putting down Bifuli. The galactic pirates would then come to pick up Bifuli and release the kidnapped mercenaries before informing Han Shao to pick them up and exchange the hostages. Sykes did this for safety reasons. Although he was a galactic pirate and did not have much credibility, often going back on his words, he was very sincere this time. He only wanted to get Bifuli back and did not want to completely anger Black Star. As long as he obtained Bifuli, he would immediately withdraw the subordinates he sent to the Garten star system and follow the agreement to not provoke the Black Star Corps again. However, Han Shao did not think this way. After provoking him, they wanted him to act as if nothing had happened. Not far away from the serial number planet, the Blacklight Stealth floated quietly in space. Through the porthole, Han Shao silently looked at this brown planet. This time, he did not call anyone else and was acting alone. Using the Blacklight Stealth, which was known for its speed, was not just for the exchange of hostages. He placed an observer's mark on Bifuli, which was equivalent to a human body surveillance device. Han Zhao's plan was to use the talent of the Chaos Observer to follow these galactic pirates, find Sykes' nest, and then have sex with all of them. He had never squeezed the juice out of a Calamity-grade super before. The exchange of hostages was to temporarily stabilize Sykes and prevent him from acting recklessly. Although the players were not afraid of threats, Han Shao did not want anyone to destroy the first batch of mercenaries of the Black Star Corps. It's about time. Han Shao piloted the spaceship into the atmosphere and flew toward the designated location. As he got closer and closer to the surface, he suddenly froze. He saw a galactic pirate's spaceship parked beside the designated location. Didn't we agree not to meet? Why are they waiting for me here? Could it be that they want to exchange the hostages face to face? Doubts flashed through his mind. Han Shao parked the spaceship further away and went to the warehouse. He carried the dying Befuli, opened the hatch, and walked out of the spaceship. Ta-tar, his feet stepped on the brown surface of the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Along the uneven ground, the galactic pirate's spaceship was parked a few thousand meters away. It was like a small dot in his field of vision. A few galactic pirates seemed to be guarding the spaceship and waving at him. Han Shao frowned. It feels strange. Rista, don't turn off the engine. If anything happens, take off immediately. All right. Rista took over the control of the spaceship. Han Shao led Befuli and walked slowly for a while. When they got close to the pirate ship, he looked at the few pirates beside the ship and said in a deep voice, "Let's go. I've brought him here. Where are my mercenaries?" Hardly had he finished his sentence when Han Zhao's eyes suddenly froze. He discovered that the space pirates were wearing weird and frightened expressions. Before he could do anything, a sudden change occurred. Bang! A hole was left on the cabin door of the space pirate's starship. A black shadow rushed to Han Shao like a meteorite and punched Han Zhao's abdomen heavily with his fist that was covered in thick iron. A terrifying power erupted from his fist. Boom! A shockwave-like shockwave spread out, and Han Shao was sent flying in a straight line like a cannonball. He flew more than 1,000 meters away and crashed into a bare mountain, burying himself in the rubble. Dust filled the air. The person who sent Han Shao flying with a punch was standing where Han Shao originally was. He was wearing heavy metal armor and had the bloodline of the demon race. He had 2 horns on his head, one of which was only half left. It was one of the 8 vanguard officials of Bloodshedland, Broken Horn Malekith. The wind created by this attack sent Befuli and a few other galactic pirates flying and crashing into the ground not far away. A few weaker galactic pirates broke a few bones and screamed in pain. They hurriedly hid far away from this battlefield. Walala! Han Shao jumped out of the rubble and rubbed his stomach. The pain quickly subsided. This damage? Grade A Super? Sykes came personally to kill me? Looking at the combat information, Han Shao was a little surprised. It's not Sykes but Malekith. Who is this guy? He doesn't look like Sykes' subordinate. This name sounds a little familiar. Strange, I've never met this person before. Why is he targeting me? Could he be an assassin hired by someone? No, one person is probably not enough to kill me. Han Shao looked at Malekith and frowned. All kinds of guesses flashed through his mind. The two of them looked at each other and did not speak. I can feel that the attack just now did not cause you any damage. Indestructible body, Black Star, you live up to your name. Malekith spoke first. His tone was indifferent, and his words were powerful. Indestructible body? Is this my new nickname? Han Xiaoxi narrowed his eyes and said, Who are you? Why did you attack me? You'll know after the fight. Malekith did not say anything else, and a thick purplish-black pugilist flame ignited around his body. He took large strides forward and charged toward Han Shao like a meteor. The heavy armor on his body started to move, and its structure became more complex. It seemed to have entered combat mode. Han Shao cursed in his mind. With a flash of mechanical force, the black and gold berserk ape mechanical suit attached to his body and caught Malekith's fist. A shock wave instantly spread out. Han Zhao's weight and strength were no match for Malekith's, and he was instantly pushed back. His legs dug deep trenches in the ground. Hum! At this time, the figure of a god aura suddenly appeared behind Han Shao. He had used Nagajan's character summon card. Muscles are the truth. Han Shao could clearly feel the muscles in his body swelling up. His entire body was filled with endless strength, and his strength attribute suddenly skyrocketed. The momentum of the berserk ape mechanical suit stopped for a moment, and Han Shao planted his feet into the ground. The torque of the berserk ape mechanical suit suddenly increased, and Han Zhao's waist and arms were twisted into an arc that he was about to throw. He grabbed onto Malekith's fist with both hands and threw Malekith over his shoulder. The moment Malekith left his hand, he broke through the sound barrier and was thrown out in a straight line. His speed was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, he became a small dot in his field of vision. He crashed into the bottom of the undulating mountain range in the distance, and the ground trembled slightly. The ability of the Berserk Ape mechanical suit, Berserk Throw. Han Shao glanced at the enemy's information. Most of them were question marks, and his heart skipped a beat. This meant that Malekith's overall level was much higher than his. Han Shao was also confused as to why Malekith would be at the handover location and why he would attack him. He had not expected such a sudden accident. Since Malekith did not explain, he could only fight first. Han Shao quickly cleared his mind and entered a focused state. He threw out compressed orbs one after another. The 12 repaired Oathkeepers circled around him, and the hovering shield shuttle floated behind him, flickering with golden energy. As this was an emergency, Han Shao did not have enough time to completely repair the Mech Legion, nor did he have the time to upgrade the machines used in the current battle mode. He was still using the same equipment as before, and the only exception was the Berserk Ape. Just this mechanical suit alone should be enough to deal with this battle. His opponent was a calamity-grade pugilist, and he did not seem to have any killing intent. As such, he could not be bothered to take out more machines. Malekith's skin was thick, and he wore a set of specially made heavy armor. His defense was extremely high, and he had the bloodline of the demon race, so his recovery speed was very high. In a breath's time, his light injuries were automatically healed. Malekith did not care about the dust on his body and charged forward once again. Chapter 582. Boom Boom Boom. On the brown earth, the two of them collided again and again like dragons and snakes fighting. They slithered across the earth and exchanged punches, constantly landing heavy blows on each other's bodies. Shock waves burst out continuously, as if a hurricane had been set off. The shock waves of the battle quickly destroyed the terrain, and the entire area became filled with holes. Malekith's overall level was very high, and his strength was even stronger. Although close combat was not Han Zhao's forte, he had Berserk Throw. He was able to throw Malekith out like a softball time and time again, interrupting the explosive attacks of the pugilist. Han Shao could escape from this place at any time, but he was very interested in Malekith's background. Thus, he decided to stay and fight. After all, the Blacklight Stealth was already patrolling in the sky, and he could escape at any time. Activating the nano-transformation function of the Berserk Ape mechanical suit, Han Shao switched to giant ape form. The mechanical suit was like cells multiplying, and a large number of components suddenly appeared, stacking on top of each other. Han Shao quickly turned into a small giant that was even taller than Malekith. His strength increased once again, and the power of Berserk Throw also increased. Both of them were calamity-grade supers, and they both had powerful defense and recovery abilities. Han Shao stabilized his footing, and the situation was in a stalemate. After fighting for a while, Malekith's eyes flashed, and he suddenly opened his mouth with a hint of excitement in his tone. He was a battle maniac, and to him, finding an opponent that he could fight to his heart's content gave him a thrill that was many times stronger than mating. "You're stronger than the rumors say. I'm going to be serious now. Don't die so easily." The next moment, Malekith softly chanted a long string of demonic language, and the flames around his body surged. His eyes were like blazing flames, and black and red flames spewed out from the gaps of his armor. His aura soared, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. The air became distorted. The talent of the demon race, advanced stage true name Liberation. Han Zhao's eyes narrowed. In this state, the overall strength of the demon race would increase greatly. With Malekith's strength as a calamity grade, the increase was extremely shocking. Bang! Han Zhao's vision blurred as the ground receded rapidly. Malekith, who was in his giant ape form, was sent flying into the air. In the next second, Malekith, who was still on the ground, closed in on Han Zhao in the blink of an eye. Malekith's leg, which was surrounded by purplish-black flames and blackish-red flames, was like a guillotine, slashing towards Han Zhao's head. It was extremely fast and ear-piercing. If he were to be struck by this kick, his neck would be torn apart and his entire body would be paralyzed. It would take half a second for him to recover, and for a pugilist like Malekith, half a second was enough for him to execute a series of simple explosive moves. Immediately deactivating the Great Ape mode, Han Zhao's body shrank back, and his leg brushed past the mecha's helmet. It missed by a hair's breadth, and the scalding wind it brought along smeared his face. After missing his attack, Malekith clasped his hands together and prepared to pummel Han Zhao to the ground. At this moment, Han Zhao's helmet suddenly opened up, revealing a fiery vortex in the depths of his eyes. The next moment, two incandescent beams of fire shot out from his eyes, giving Malekith a love explosion. Boom! Malekith's attack was interrupted once again. There were different types of demons. When using the true name release, one could clearly distinguish them. For example, those that breathed fire were flame demons, and those that breathed ice were frost demons. Malekith clearly had the bloodline of a flame demon, so his resistance to fire was extremely high. Although the damage of this attack was limited, it successfully pushed him away. Han Zhao placed some genetic medicine into the injection module of the mecha. Just now, he injected Befuli's genetic medicine and used his one-time use character summon card. After obtaining a breather, Han Zhao did not hesitate and directly activated the third transformation of the Berserk Ape mode, Berserk Overload form. The miniature high-density nuclear reactor operated at high power, and the power of the weapon and the mecha's attributes were all significantly increased. Han Zhao put his arms together and activated the nano-weapon module. The armor on both his arms merged together, forming a huge cannon barrel. Light beams shot out from it and struck Malekith from afar. Small mushroom clouds appeared on the ground as Han Zhao activated the nano-weapon module. Rumble! Malekith endured the bombardment and moved forward. He also raised his hands and shot out shockwave blasts. The two of them shot at each other, and one of them moved forward while the other retreated. After true name release, Malekith's speed increased tremendously, and he gradually shortened the distance between them. Soon, he was in front of Han Zhao again. His fist, which was surrounded by flames, went straight for Han Zhao's chest. 1. At this moment, Han Zhao's body exploded with shocking electric arcs. His heavy fist was like a bolt of lightning, and it landed on Malekith's face first. Bang! This punch was like a thunderbolt that exploded out of nowhere. The shockwave spread out from Han Zhao's feet, and the ground within 100 meters of him cracked and caved in. As for Malekith, he had already turned into a shooting star and disappeared from sight. Power explosion. If it was a melee attack, the damage would be increased by 650% to 700%, and there would be additional energy explosion and splash damage. There would be a 65% chance of causing a critical hit, and there would be additional debuffs such as knockback, and stun. Not only had he used one skill, he had also used gene release. At the same time, which was Flaming Will. That had been strengthened by the skill upgrade card. The power of the skill had accumulated to a terrifying level. Malekith had been sent flying for more than 10 kilometers. He would only be able to land after flying for a while. Hoo, Han Zhao panted softly. Melee combat was the most exhausting. His health and energy were still very healthy, but his stamina had decreased by quite a bit. Fortunately, stamina recovery was usually in percentage form. The higher the upper limit, the faster the recovery. This guy is really strong, much stronger than Degulish and Nagajan. That attack just now probably only caused him some light injuries. Han Xiao was hesitating whether or not to continue fighting. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and he recalled Malekith's background. A corps officer of Bloodshed Land, one of the 8 vanguard officials under Heber the Tyrant. He's a beyond grade A subordinate? Han Xiao immediately became alert. Why would another beyond grade A officer find him? This time, a rolling smoke dragon appeared in the wilderness far away. It was Malekith running back. This time, he did not charge over but stopped a few dozen meters away from Han Xiao. He had already deactivated his true name release form, and there was a red fist print on his face. Well done, Black Star. You're an opponent worthy of my full strength. I really enjoyed the battle just now. Malekith revealed an appreciative smile. Even after activating his true name release form, he could not completely suppress his opponent and had even suffered a small loss. Black Star was very strong, even stronger than many people had guessed. There was no doubt about that. He had already achieved his goal for this trip. I know your identity, Malekith. You're from Bloodshed Land. Han Xiao did not want to continue fighting. He only wanted to know the purpose of Malekith's visit as soon as possible. Frowning, he said, "Why did you attack me? And why are you here?" "I came here especially for you." Malekith touched the broken horn on his head. Black Star was the Dragon Emperor's trusted officer. The Black Star Corps had been in the limelight recently, and he had been ordered to pay attention to Black Star's movements and find an opportunity to test him. When the Purple Snake space pirates kidnapped the mercenaries of the Black Star Corps, Bloodshed Land's intelligence network had coincidentally found out that Malekith was nearby. Thus, he had stolen the spaceship of this group of space pirates and waited for Black Star to come to him. Without anyone disturbing him, he would be able to figure out Black Star's strength. If Black Star was strong enough, then Floating Dragon will only bury talents like you. You should have greater achievements. With your strength, you should be on the same level as me and become the 9th Vanguard official. Malekith finally expressed his intentions and threw out an olive branch. Chapter 583. With a strange expression, Han Xiao sized Malekith up from head to toe. "Are you here to poach me?" He did not expect to meet a hunter. After all, he was now an officer of Floating Dragon, and normal organizations would not dare to do such a thing. The corps officers of Bloodshed Land had come to invite him, and even offered him a very high position. He would become one of the Vanguard officials as soon as he joined, which was a very high position. Bloodshed Land and Floating Dragon were 2 different organizations. Floating Dragon had always been supported by Ames alone, and Heber was also a beyond grade A super. Not only that, but he was also the oldest of the 4 famous beyond grade A supers in the Shattered Star Ring. Pugilists trained one's physique and life force, so his lifespan was very long. Thus, Bloodshed Land also had Floating Dragon's greatest advantage. Furthermore, Bloodshed Land was an important ally of a star cluster civilization. They were rich in resources, had a wide network, and had a very strong armed force. They had many branches in various star systems of another star cluster. Just their organization alone was already a giant in the Shattered Star Ring. Furthermore, unlike Floating Dragon, they were still active and expanding. For example, in the previous version of the Wayne card Shattered Star Ring deck, there were 3 cards in the Floating Dragon faction. They were the faction card Floating Dragon Island, the strong card Dragon Emperor Ames, and the mercenary card Black Star Mercenary. There were a total of 14 cards in the Bloodshed Land faction. I've been in the limelight recently and displayed my abilities. It should be because of this that I've caught the attention of more powerful people. Han Xiao nodded. While this was rare, it was not unprecedented. When one's fame and legendary points reached a certain level, there would be a chance of such a thing happening. After becoming famous, all sorts of people would come looking for him. Bloodshed Land coming to poach him proved that his level had also subtly increased. I'm a little curious. Aren't you guys afraid that Ames will be angry? Han Shao curled his lips. Malekith smiled faintly, containing great confidence. Do you think His Excellency Tyrant will be afraid of Ames? Furthermore, this is not the first time. Han Zhao's eyes moved and he became curious. You guys poached someone from Floating Dragon before? That person is still alive? Of course he's alive, and he's in a very high position now. Ames didn't cause you any trouble. Heh, you know her very well. Indeed, she dragged Floating Dragon Island and attacked our headquarters, so His Excellency Tyrant took action. What's the result? Han Shao raised his eyebrows. Malekith pursed his lips, his eyes filled with passion. He chuckled and said, the original Floating Dragon Island was twice as big as this. Ames is at a disadvantage, Han Xiaoxin thought. This was a secret that the players in Han Zhao's previous life did not manage to find out. It turned out that Floating Dragon had a grudge with Bloodshed Land. No wonder they were trying to poach Ames. Wait, if I reject, I might be viewed as an enemy by the Bloodshed Land? Han Shao became vigilant and asked in a deep voice, Thank you for your invitation, but what if I refuse? Malekith's smile disappeared, and he stared at Han Shao. His tone became unquestionable as he slowly said, Consider it again. Black Star's hundreds of thousands of immortals had already attracted the interest of the Bloodshed Land, but Heber did not bother to poach people slowly. If he wanted to poach someone, he would poach the leader directly. Thus, Han Shao became the target of recruitment. Malekith did not want to return empty-handed from a mission personally given by the tyrant. This is a threat, right? Han Shao frowned and secretly weighed the pros and cons. If he changed his allegiance to the Bloodshed Land, he would incur the wrath of Floating Dragon. The connections that he had built with Floating Dragon would disappear, and the Black Star Corps and Blue Star would lose the special treatment that Floating Dragon gave him. Ames placed a lot of importance on him, and if he betrayed her, she would be even angrier. The consequences would be dire. As for the benefits, they seemed to be huge as well. Bloodshed Land's influence was much stronger than Floating Dragon's. What he lost on the swings, he gained on the swings. With the help of the Bloodshed Land, he could rebuild a wider network. At the same time, with the resources of the Bloodshed Land, he could provide greater support to the Black Star Corps, making up for all his losses. The only problem was that he might need to go to the star cluster where the Bloodshed Land was. Since Heber dared to poach me, if Ames succeeded in her revenge, it would be very embarrassing. Thus, Heber would probably protect me. After thinking for a while, Han Shao spoke. I've thought about it. His brows relaxed, and he smiled at Malekith. I refuse. Although he had analyzed the pros and cons out of habit, that was just a habit. From the start, Han Shao had never planned to leave Floating Dragon. He was not someone who would be swayed by a few words. Ames had provided so much convenience, and this was all a favor. Their relationship had always been in a warm state. If it were Heber, he would have to rebuild his relationship with his boss. Furthermore, the name Tyrant did not sound easy to get along with. Bloodshed Land had many more rules than Floating Dragon, and it was impossible for them to tolerate him as much as Ames did. Most importantly, I'm the only leader of the field team on Floating Dragon. Only a fool would run over to be your ninth brother. Malekith's smile completely disappeared, and he stared at Han Shao with a cold expression. Han Shao did not back down and stared back, secretly adjusting his state of mind. The atmosphere gradually became tense. Just when he thought that they were going to fight again, Malekith suddenly snorted heavily, turned around and left. Han Zhao's expression relaxed, and he let out a sigh of relief. It seemed like there would not be a fight. This was the crucial stage of the Black Star Corps' development. It was best not to become enemies with Bloodshed Land. This time, a spaceship with Bloodshed Land's symbol flew over from the horizon. This was Malekith's spaceship, and it had been hiding behind the planet. Malekith boarded the ramp and suddenly pressed on the hatch that was about to close. He glanced at Han Shao and said with a low voice, "Black Star, we will meet again very soon." Then, he did not care about Han Zhao's reaction and let the hatch close. The Bloodshed Land spaceship quickly took off and disappeared. Meet again very soon. What does that mean? Is he looking for a chance to deal with me? Or is there another meaning? Forget it. Bloodshed Land's territory is not in the Colton star cluster anyway, so it's unlikely that they will come over to deal with me. Since Floating Dragon and Bloodshed Land are at peace, they definitely won't make a big move because of me. Han Shao shook his head. After thinking it through, he was no longer worried. Right, I'm here to hand over the hostages. He suddenly came back to his senses. After messing around with Malekith for a while, he had almost forgotten the purpose of this trip. Returning to the side of the Galactic Pirate's spaceship, Bifuli was lying on the ground with a few lightly injured Galactic Pirates surrounding him. They glanced at the blacklight stealth circling in the sky and seemed to be hesitating whether or not to take Bifuli away. Hearing footsteps, these Galactic Pirates turned around and saw Han Shao walking over. They shivered at the same time, and fear appeared in their eyes. They froze on the spot, not daring to move. The original method of handing over the hostages did not require them to meet, and there was a guarantee of safety. However, now that the victim, Han Shao, was right in front of them, they were afraid that they would lose their lives. Furthermore, Bifuli's skinny appearance made them extremely shocked. They did not know what kind of torture Bifuli had gone through to become like this. In any case, they did not want to follow in his footsteps. Han Shao glanced at them, casually grabbed a Galactic Pirate, and stepped onto the spaceship. The Galactic Pirate pointed the way in fear, and the two of them quickly arrived at the prison. However, the prison was empty. Where is he? Han Shao pressed down on the Galactic Pirate's head and tightened his grip. His tone was unfriendly. I don't know. They disappeared a day and a half ago. The Galactic Pirate felt that his head was about to explode, and he hurriedly explained. Disappeared? Han Shao raised his eyebrows, then realized something and let go of his hand. F***ck, these bastards went offline. They probably went to sleep. Disappeared a day and a half ago. That means they should be online soon. I can wait. Han Shao realized a problem and squeezed the Galactic Pirate's head again. The hostages disappeared, and you still want to make a deal? Are you playing with me? The Galactic Pirate was about to cry. Sir, we're all controlled by that demon. How can we inform you? Also, can you stop squeezing my head? My head hurts. At this moment, a white light flashed in the prison, and a few Guild of Gods players came online. They immediately saw a huge lump of black star and were pleasantly surprised. Quick, inform the President. The hidden quest is finally here. More than 10 seconds later, a series of white lights flashed, and Jupiter and the others all came online. When they saw Han Shao, they were all overjoyed. Back again. The Galactic Pirate rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was not hallucinating. Han Shao opened the prison, led everyone out of the spaceship, and threw the Galactic Pirate in his hand to the ground. Contact Sykes. Our deal will continue. As soon as he said that, the fear on the Galactic Pirates' faces froze and turned into surprise. The hostages had already been taken away, and they were in Black Star's hands. They had nothing to threaten him with. Under such circumstances, Black Star still wanted to hand over Bifuli and let them go? You still want to continue the deal? One of the Galactic Pirates could not help but repeat, finding it hard to believe. Why, are you going back on your word? Han Shao asked. No, you misunderstood. We'll do as we agreed. The Galactic Pirates hurriedly denied it with ecstasy on their faces. One of the Galactic Pirates hurriedly contacted Sykes and explained the situation to him. Sykes was shocked. His subordinates had actually been controlled by someone from Bloodshed Land. This was something that he had never expected. However, Even though there was a problem with the deal, Black Star did not go back on his word. Could it be that his threat was really that effective? Sykes could only conclude that this was the reason, and he suddenly felt much better. A famous expert in the galaxy was scared by him. Ignoring the negotiations of the galactic pirates, Han Shao led Jupiter and the others to the side, let the Blacklight stealth land, and opened the hatch. Get on the ship. Rista will bring you to the nearest city planet. Jupiter's eyes sparkled, and he said passionately, "We want to help you deal with the enemy. Please let us lend you a hand." It was not easy to come across a hidden storyline. With such a good opportunity, he felt that he would definitely be able to trigger the hidden mission. You have triggered the hidden mission or retreat. Mission introduction. You have been involved in a storm. However, with your current strength, you are unable to interfere in this matter. Therefore, what you need to do is to retreat from this place as soon as possible. Mission requirements: leave in the Blacklight stealth. Reward: 35 EXP plus 200 Black Star core favorability. Let's go. Jupiter turned around and walked into the hatch without hesitation. The players of the Guild of Gods followed behind and boarded the Blacklight stealth. Poseidon approached Jupiter, gave him a thumbs up, and said, as expected of the president, "If we had boarded the ship immediately, we would not have triggered this mission." Jupiter smiled smugly and pointed at his temple. "This is experience. Learn from it." Although this mission was a little different from what he had imagined, after reading the mission introduction, Jupiter felt that this might be a high-level event. It was just that they did not meet the requirements to trigger it, which was why it had become the retreat mission. Although it was a pity, he could only do it for now. It was better than nothing. Han Shao was still standing outside, waiting for the galactic pirate's reply. After a while, a galactic pirate ran over and said carefully, "Your Excellency Black Star, if there are no problems, we will leave with Bifuli. Go. Don't provoke me in the future. I won't let you go next time." Han Shao waved his hand and boarded the spaceship. Only then did the galactic pirate heave a sigh of relief. He hurriedly called his companions and activated the spaceship. The thrusters spewed out flames and the spaceship floated up. Just as the spaceship was about to accelerate, behind the hatch of the Blacklight stealth, Han Zhao's eyes shone with a gray light. He activated his racial talent and turned into the Chaos Body. His entire body lost its physical form and turned into a gray fog. Advanced Void Travel. After entering the Void Vision, time seemed to stop in the outside world. Han Shao controlled the Chaos Body to leave the Blacklight stealth. Because the duration of Advanced Void Travel was longer, he had plenty of time to cross a large distance and approach the spaceship. Void Travel had the ability to pass through walls. The Chaos Body directly passed through the hatch of the spaceship and found a remote cabin to hide. Only then did he deactivate Void Travel. He did not trigger the alarm, and the galactic pirates did not discover him. Who? Chapter 584. The Blacklight stealth carried Jupiter and the others to the nearest planet. Jupiter and the others walked around, curiously looking at the interior of the spaceship. This was Black Star's spaceship, and very few players were allowed to board it. Rista had sealed off most of the access to the cabins, so these players could only enter and exit some unimportant public areas. "This spaceship should be very valuable, right?" Poseidon said. "I've searched. This seems to be a spaceship model from a super-advanced civilization." Jupiter nodded. With the communicator, the players could connect to the galactic network, and they were no longer natives. All sorts of information channels were finally open to them, and their knowledge increased every day. With Philip's support of the search function, they could search for any information online. The players gradually got used to asking Philip for help. "Spaceships are too expensive. I don't know when we'll be able to afford one." Poseidon shook his head. "Actually, it's not certain. As long as we do a few missions and raise funds from the guild, it's still possible to buy some basic spaceship. As the leader of a guild under a club, Jupiter had always considered the long term. The resources he could mobilize far exceeded that of the average player. The spaceship, which was a sky-high price in the eyes of the average player, was still something he could afford. After all, the guild of a club was basically a company. Excluding the peripheral members and casual players, the internal members were all employees. Mobilizing funds was just a matter of a word from them. What he was thinking about was what kind of advantages he would get if he gave the guild a spaceship in advance. Was it worth it? At this time, a core member with the ID Michael said, "Leader, actually, we can buy functional spaceships. I've checked the various resources and fuel prices in the free market, and many large corporations are buying them without limit. Although the price is a little low, the profits are very stable." Jupiter's expression changed. "You mean to buy mining ships?" "Yes. Organize a mining team to collect resources from uninhabited planets and sell them to buyers. This is a reliable source of funds," Michael said confidently. "In the early stages, the return rate is relatively slow, but as we mine and do missions, we can gather funds to buy more mining ship. After accumulating funds in the early stages, our profits will continue to rise, and when it reaches a certain point, it will start to snowball. If we have an entire mining fleet, our profits will increase exponentially." Jupiter was a little tempted. "So, the earlier we buy a mining ship, the greater our advantage." "That's right." Michael nodded and added, "Now, hiring missions are the way to go. Everyone is doing them, and the profits are very high. However, big guilds like Dynasty and Long Sky are at the same level as us and can mobilize more manpower, so they will definitely think of more ways to earn money. Damn you, old Jew, time waits for no one." Aside from making money, the work of the club guilds was also to provide better logistical support for the pro players. Jupiter couldn't help but hesitate. Poseidon glanced at Michael. "Don't tell me you're a colleague from another guild's office of strategic deception. Hurry up and leave the group to prove your innocence. Go away." Michael raised his middle finger in response. Poseidon curled his lips and looked at the decorations in the cabin. Suddenly, he said, "Old Jew, if we steal this spaceship, won't we make a killing? I'm afraid we'll leave Dynasty far behind." Everyone looked at him speechlessly. "Actually, you're the spy," Michael retorted. "I was just saying it casually. Look at how anxious you all are." Poseidon clicked his tongue. From the rendezvous point to the Fawn star system, they had to pass through many stargates, so the journey time was not short. However, in order to get rid of Sykes, this hidden danger, Han Shao decided to wait patiently. The raiding spaceship traveled in the universe. In a certain secluded place on the spaceship, Han Shao and his chaos body stuck close to the wall. He realized that the racial talent of the Chaos Observer seemed to be very suitable for this kind of careless stealth. Any stealth that did not kill all the witnesses was careless. Because he was in his chaos body state, Han Shao had nothing else to do. He could only browse the forums every day and understand the progress of their hiring missions from the players' posts. Because they had not been in the universe for long, the players were still relatively well-behaved, and most of their missions were going smoothly. On planet Sunil's side, the 200,000 mercenaries were also working in full swing. The situation was reassuring. Other than browsing the forums, Han Shao used the Observer's mark to spy on Erosia, Serbia V, and Haluz to pass the time. After more than 10 days, the raiding spaceship finally left the Garten star system and entered the Fawn star system, connecting with the main fleet very quickly. The Purple Snake Space Pirate Gang fleet had more than 40 battleships, and the majority of them were small and medium-sized raiding spaceship. The main spaceship was a modified Raven Cannon battleship, which was the main spaceship model of the Black Raven civilization in the Fawn star system. A space pirate gang of this size was already considered a big space pirate gang that could not be underestimated. The raiding spaceship flew into the fleet and docked with the main spaceship. A few space pirates carried the weak Bifuli through the passage and came to the main spaceship hall. Sykes had been waiting there for a long time. The hall was filled with his subordinates, and 3 Grade B officers were waiting at the side. Sykes sat in his seat, and when he saw the skinny Bifuli, he suddenly stood up and hurried over with a surprised expression. "Bifuli, how did you become like this?" Bifuli looked at Syke, his lips trembling. Tears suddenly welled up in his eyes, and his voice was sobbing. "Black Star is a devil. What exactly did he do to you?" Sykes could not help but size Bifuli up. In his memory, Bifuli was a burly man, but now, he was as thin as a stick, and his entire body was shriveled up. It was as if he would fall with just a push, and he was crying like a softie. Not only him, the other space pirates also looked at him with disbelief. They could not believe that their strong comrade would become so pitiful. What exactly did he go through for a Grade B super to become like this? When Bifuli thought of those hellish days, he could not help but reveal a look of fear, and he subconsciously shivered. He imprisoned me in a dark cabin. I don't even know how long it has been. He used a device to continuously extract my super genes, and the speed of my recovery became slower and slower. Until now I have only recovered a little of my strength. Those who obtained strength could not bear to lose it the most. Every time he recovered a little of his strength, it would be mercilessly taken away. He had to go through this cycle again and again, especially when he was imprisoned in a cell and lost the feeling of time. All these actions had caused Bifuli severe mental trauma. Hearing this, Sykes could not help but shiver. He secretly regretted his decision to provoke Black Star. He did not expect that this guy was not only strong, but he was also a F*** king pervert. Originally, because Bifuli was a Grade B super that he valued, he took the risk to threaten Black Star. Now, it seemed that Bifuli was almost crippled, and he did not know how long it would take for his mental state to recover. What Sykes needed was a useful officer, not a useless person. Even if there were some space pirates present who did not usually get along with Bifuli, seeing Bifuli in such a pitiful state, they could not help but feel pity. Black Star insisted on the deal, so he is probably using Bifuli as an example to threaten us, another Grade B space pirate said. Sykes nodded with a heavy heart. What do we do now? Are we not going to take revenge for Bifuli? In the crowd, someone suddenly asked. Sykes's face immediately sank. Of course, he did not want to provoke Black Star again, but asking this question in such a situation was simply making things difficult for him. If he directly said no, wouldn't he lose his prestige, lose his leadership, and be looked down upon by his subordinates? I have my own plan. Helpless, Sykes could only give an ambiguous answer, intending to change the topic. At this time, the person who asked the question just now spoke again in the crowd. What kind of plan, and how exactly are we going to do it? It's you again, can you shut up? Is this something you have the right to know? Sykes's face was not looking good. He looked in the direction of the voice, wanting to see which subordinate dared to question his boss. Seeing that their boss was angry, the space pirates hurriedly separated, revealing the person who spoke. The eyes of all the space pirates in the hall focused on him, wanting to see who was so daring. Seems to be a galactic human, wearing a black trench coat, seems to be quite tall, looks, why does he look a little familiar? Sykes stared at this person, blinked, and confusion appeared in his eyes. The next moment, his expression suddenly turned to shock, and he jumped up, shouting in shock and anger. Black Star! Why the F*** are you here? The surrounding space pirates jumped out of fear as if they had seen a ghost, and the space around Han Shao became empty. The whole place was silent. Han Shao glanced around, then stared at Sykes, stroked his chin, and slowly said, "Don't be nervous, I'm here to make a deal with you this time." "What deal?" "I want you to give up your freedom in exchange for—" Han Shao raised his eyebrows, chuckled, and said, "Your life." Bzzz. As soon as he said that, a violent bolt of mechanical force shot out, and the berserk ape instantly possessed him. Han Shao fired a high-energy concentrated particle cannon, directly blasting through the armor of the spaceship from the inside, revealing a hole that directly connected to the universe outside. The suction force from the vacuum was like a hurricane, and all the space pirates in the hall were pulled out of the spaceship by the terrifying suction force and thrown into the universe. The bodies of some of the weaker supers quickly stiffened, and their blood vessels ruptured. The vacuum environment of the universe was also fatal to low-grade supers. Only Sykes and a few of the stronger space pirates were able to stabilize themselves and resist the suction force. The vacuum environment of the universe could only be considered a harsh environment, and at most, movement would be restricted, but it was not fatal. As for calamity grades, they were not afraid at all. The mechanical suit had its own internal circulation, and the vacuum had no effect on Han Shao at all. He was floating in midair. Sykes's face was filled with rage, and his mouth opened and closed as if he was roaring. However, the sound of air being sucked out suppressed his voice, and it was almost inaudible. Han Shao did not say anything and heavily punched the alloy floor, using power explosion. Boom! A shock wave with electric arcs burst out, and the alloy floor was directly twisted and broken. The aftermath swept out, and the collapse continued to expand outward. The hall and the nearby cabins began to explode and collapse, and the whole instantly expanded by a few times. Having lost their footing, all the space pirates except for Sykes were sucked away. Sykes was the only one who was able to steady himself by throwing out purple, sticky tentacles as thick as his arms and stabbing them into the alloy walls around him. Secreting purple sticky liquid was Sykes' Esper ability. This sticky liquid was highly toxic and corrosive, and it could also solidify temporarily into tentacles and other forms. Furthermore, the secreted purple sticky liquid could be stored for a long time, and Sykes could actively adjust the degree of corrosion of the sticky liquid. This was where his nickname, Purple Snake, came from. Sykes was an Esper, but he also had armor. However, he was not a mechanic, and the armor could not be compressed into a portable orb. It was currently in his personal warehouse. Although he hated Han Shao to the core, he knew that the most important thing right now was to put on the armor. At least he would be able to move freely regardless of the vacuum. He immediately used his tentacles to move along the wall, heading straight for his personal warehouse. The thrusters fired, leaving behind a faint trail of flames. Han Shao approached Sykes back at high speed. At this time, Sykes suddenly waved his hand, and a wave of purple sticky liquid slammed toward him. The edges of the sticky liquid came into contact with the walls of the spaceship, and thick smoke came out. The corrosive traces were like melting. This Esper ability is quite interesting. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. The vambrace suddenly changed shape, revealing a row of pipes, and he clenched his fist. The interior of the spaceship had not completely turned into a vacuum, and a large amount of air was sucked in by the nano-holes all over the mechanical suit. Immediately after, a row of high-pressure air cannons shot out from the vambrace, directly scattering the wave of purple sticky liquid. The corrosive sticky liquid splashed everywhere, and the surroundings were instantly filled with thick smoke. Han Shao accelerated and grabbed one of Sykes' arms. Mechanical force exploded all over his body, and the thrusters fired in reverse. Han Shao instantly stopped in place, grabbed Sykes' arms, and made a twisting throwing motion. Berserk throw. Main ship, please answer. Main ship, please answer. What's the situation now? In space, the dozens of raiding spaceships of the Purple Snake space pirates surrounded the main ship that Sykes was in. Everything was normal at first, but dozens of seconds ago, all the raiding spaceships suddenly lost contact with the main ship. No matter how they called, the main ship would only respond with silence. Just when the other raiding spaceships were about to dock with the main ship to check the situation, the outer armor of the main ship suddenly exploded, leaving a hole. Countless items were sucked into space like a tornado, including many of their galactic pirate companions. Before the galactic pirates on the other spaceships could be shocked, the next moment the tail of the spaceship, which was thousands of meters away from the hole in the hull, also had a hole blown open. A large amount of broken metal flew out along with a figure. It was their boss, Sykes. Chapter 585. It happened so suddenly that the galactic pirates were stunned. Seeing their boss Sykes tumbling in space, the Purple Snake space pirates finally realized that this was an enemy attack, and their expressions changed. "Quick, help the boss! The enemy should be in the main ship. Surround the main ship and don't let him escape," the galactic pirates yelled. Two of the spaceships approached Sykes, and the other dozens of spaceships quickly formed an encirclement formation. Through the porthole, Han Shao could clearly see the spaceships turning around and aiming their cannons at the main ship he was in. Han Shao smiled and called out to Philip in the helmet. "Philip, assist me with virtual intrusion." Order confirmed. Switching to virtual interface view, the tactical screen in the helmet displayed the intrusion interface. The mechanical suit's chest emitted a cone-shaped green light, forming a virtual operation screen in front of him. Han Zhao's fingers quickly entered the code. The first to be invaded was the main ship of the Purple Snake space pirate. You have used virtual intrusion on the Purple Snake battleship. Starting to crack the firewall, Level 2. Proceeding with Level 1 authentication, authentication passed. Proceeding with Level 2 authentication, authentication passed. Intrusion successful. You have obtained the authority to operate the Purple Snake battleship. Authority level. Highest data has been sampled. Backup generation complete. Plus 10% success rate and plus 25% speed for the next intrusion into a machine controlled by the same artificial intelligence. Your authority has been blocked by the enemy's virtual intelligence. Proceeding with Level 2 authentication passed. You have successfully retained your authority. Next authorization authentication time, 140 seconds later. The virtual intelligence used by the galactic pirate spaceships was obviously far inferior to Darkstar's. It only had a Level 2 firewall. Han Shao was already at the Calamity grade level, so his virtual intrusion ability was also greatly improved. Invading the galactic pirate spaceships was a piece of cake, and he immediately obtained the highest level of authority. The level of authority obtained from the first intrusion was inversely proportional to the difficulty of the intrusion. It was equivalent to the virtual intelligence of the Purple Snake space pirates being pressed against the ground, unable to fight back at all. The interface immediately displayed the virtual model of the Purple Snake battleship. All the modules were available, and Han Shao tapped on the shield module. Activate the shield at full power. The next moment, an oval-shaped light blue electromagnetic shield enveloped the entire spaceship. Dong, dong, dong. Outside the porthole, dozens of plundering ships saw this and gathered fire without saying a word. A light cannon exploded on the shield, and the inside of the spaceship shook incessantly. The shield should be able to last for a few minutes. We have plenty of time. Han Shao was not in a hurry as he began to perform virtual intrusion on the other targets. He didn't throw Sykes out on a whim. Instead, he wanted to seize control of the flagship and defend against the concentrated fire of the pirate gang. Sykes was one of the weaker existences among the Calamity-grade supers. If it was a one-on-one battle, Han Zhao's chances of winning were very high. However, this was not a one-on-one battle but a group battle. He was faced with a fleet of space pirates. Han Zhao's strategy from the very beginning was to seize a favorable location and display the abilities of a virtual mechanic. While this side was bombarding, not far away, Sykes was still floating in space. Although he could use his energy to move, he was not a martial artist after all, and his Esper ability did not increase his speed. When he turned around, he saw his subordinates driving 2 pillaging ships towards him. They were obviously here to receive him. Sykes's eyes lit up. He urged his energy and approached them. Only now did Sykes have the time to think about what to do next. He originally did not want to make an enemy out of Han Shao, but the other party had taken the initiative to come knocking on his door. This matter could not be settled peacefully. Both parties were already enemies. Sykes was burning with anger. He gritted his teeth. The other party had come alone, making him feel that Han Shao did not even put the purple snake space pirates in his eyes. If that was the case, then he would not care about anything else. He might as well get rid of Black Star right here and now. Killing intent rose in Sykes's heart. The 2 pillaging ships finally approached. Sykes put away his thoughts and prepared to wait for his subordinates to open the hatch to receive him. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The 2 pillaging ships fired beams of light cannons at Sykes. His vision instantly turned into a vast expanse of white as a surging heat assaulted him. Sykes's expression changed drastically. In the battleship Purple Snake that was under fire, Han Zhao's operation interface had 2 more virtual models of the raiding spaceship. He had long noticed the spaceship that had gone to pick up Sykes and directly hacked it to take control. He did not want Sykes to run to other spaceships. His fingers danced on the control interface, creating blurry afterimages. The speed of his input was extremely shocking. The artificial intelligence of the pillaging ships could not fight back at all. One after another, the pillaging ships turned into Han Zhao's shape. It was as if a green grassland had appeared above Sykes' head. The main ship suffered fewer and fewer attacks. The pillaging ships controlled by Han Shao opened fire at the other galactic pirates, and the galactic pirates were instantly thrown into chaos. A Calamity-grade virtual mechanic was enough to deal with an entire galactic pirate fleet alone. The high-level combatants in the galaxy were not just for show. This was especially true for mechanics in the later stages. Once they reached this level, their combat power would be extremely shocking. They could adapt to both one-on-one and group fight. The situation changed rapidly. A small portion of people saw that the situation was not good and quickly escaped with their ship. The word loyalty was not in the dictionary of galactic pirate. The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes, and the cannon fire gradually became sparse. Other than the fleeing and destroyed spaceships, all the other spaceships fell into Han Zhao's control. Han Shao stepped onto the pillaging ships one after another and cleaned up the galactic pirates inside. A portion of those who were not too bad were left behind. The few Grade B officers of the galactic pirates were among them. They were all tied up and thrown into the Purple Snake battleship. As for the holes in the ship, they had already been repaired by the repair robot. Capturing Sykes did not take much effort. Han Shao mobilized a large number of pillaging ships to focus fire on him alone. Although the power of these spaceships' light cannons was far weaker than the main cannon of Darkstar, there were too many of them. Sykes could not move freely in space, and it was difficult for him to dodge. He was a living target. It was so miserable that even Han Shao could not bear to watch. After confirming that Sykes was about to explode, Han Shao controlled the gravitational force of the spaceship to drag Sykes back to the Purple Snake battleship and threw him in front of the other galactic pirates. B-Boss, all the captured galactic pirates looked at the half-dead Sykes and could not help but feel fear. Grade A supers rarely became galactic pirate. The cohesion of the Purple Snake space pirates came from Sykes's strength, which gave the galactic pirates under him a lot of confidence. However, Sykes did not even have to fight a few rounds with the enemy before he was easily defeated. The powerful image that Sykes had in their hearts was instantly shattered. The more they admired Sykes in the past, the more they feared Han Shao now. Some escaped, but they are all small fries. Not important. Han Shao stood in front of everyone and put away the berserk ape. The galactic pirates who were still alive were all captured, so there was no need for virtual intrusion. The spaceships were all in his hands. After counting, excluding the spaceships that escaped in time, he had captured a total of 24 spaceships. Although most of them were cheap pillaging ships, there was also this Raven cannon battleship, which was quite a bountiful harvest. Sykes was severely injured. His hands and feet were locked by the electromagnetic confinement ring. He lay on the ground on his side and stared at Han Shao with hatred and resentment in his eyes. "Don't look at me like that. Since you provoked others, you should be mentally prepared for them to come knocking on your door." Han Shao shrugged. Sykes smiled bitterly and had nothing to say. He had a stubborn look on his face that said, "Do whatever you want." A calamity-grade super should be able to last longer. Han Shao was not going to be polite with the captive. His eyes sparkled as he muttered to himself. He took out the super gene extractor and walked toward Sykes step by step. Seeing Han Zhao's fervent eyes, Sykes suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He suddenly recalled Befuli's miserable state, and his expression changed. "Don't come over. I will kill you. I will definitely kill you. Don't come over. Don't." Han Shao turned a deaf ear to him and directly inserted the super gene extractor into Sykes's blood vessels. He extracted the super gene and formed 3 blood-red ability potions that looked like thick blood plasma. A sense of weakness appeared in Sykes's bones. What little energy he had left dissipated. He could not feel the Esper ability that he used to be so handy. It was as if he had suddenly lost the feeling of his limbs. He instantly panicked. This time, Han Shao took out a fresh tube of ability potion and drank it all. Sykes's entire body trembled. Looking at someone else drinking his own blood, he suddenly felt a sense of fear. His eyes widened and his lips trembled. "You have received a character summon card, Sykes, temporary." Sykes had many abilities. The abilities that the ability potion drew were random, and they were basically different ways to use the Esper ability. This was an Esper ability that created some kind of substance. It was a little weak in terms of combat power, but the substance created would not disappear. Thus, there were more ways to use it. The destructive power of this Esper ability is actually very scary. As long as he has enough time, he can create a venom that can cover an entire continent or even make the surface of a planet barren. This is a poison that can destroy a country. The way Han Shao looked at Sykes changed. It was as if he was looking at a biological weapon, with a hint of disappointment. Coming to be a galactic pirate with such an awesome Esper ability, what's the difference between you and a salted fish? Not long after, all the captive galactic pirates had their ability potions extracted. Han Shao checked their various abilities and had a rough idea. He then locked everyone up, especially Sykes, who he took special care of. The threat of the Purple Snake space pirates is finally dealt with. "It took me more than half a month," Han Shao looked at the forums. Other than Planet Sunil, the first batch of missions from the other players had basically been completed. Most of them were successful, and a small number of players triggered new events outside. More players returned to Base Number 1 to take on new missions and upgrade their equipment. They also provided Han Shao with a sum of money. Everything was on the right track. I stole more than 20 spaceships this time. Maybe fighting galactic pirates is also a way to get rich. Han Shao was deep in thought. In the past, he was not strong enough. Now that he had stepped into the calamity grade, capturing normal galactic pirates was a piece of cake. Not only could he steal spaceships, but he could also capture galactic pirates as materials for ability potions or even exchange them for bounties. Sykes had a bounty of 2,800,000 anas in the Black Raven civilization, but Han Shao did not plan to exchange for the bounty now. He had to at least squeeze Sykes dry first before handing him over for money. After sorting out the spoils of war, Han Shao took the 20 spaceships he had stolen and started the journey back to the Garten star system. A few days after Han Shao left, the escaped Purple Snake Galactic Pirates spread the news of what had happened. Only then did the Fawn star system know what had happened. Black Star single-handedly overturned the entire Purple Snake Galactic Pirates. This news was not big, but it was not a small matter either. The Purple Snake Galactic Pirates had always been committing crimes in the Fawn star system, and they were quite famous. Such a large galactic pirate gang had been defeated by Black Star single-handedly, and many people were curious about the reason. Some said that Sykes had kidnapped the Black Star core people, some said that this was a mission that Black Star had accepted, and some said that Black Star had specifically targeted the Galactic Pirates to steal their resources, and the Purple Snake Galactic Pirates were the victims. There were all kinds of rumors. In short, the annihilation of a large galactic pirate gang was a good thing for the citizens of the Fawn star system. The Black Raven civilization also received this news. They were waiting for Black Star to come and exchange for the bounty, and at the same time, they wanted to befriend this famous person who had recently risen to power. However, after waiting for a few days, they received news that Han Shao had already returned to the Garten star system. The staff of the Black Raven civilization's bounty department were a little dumbfounded. Black Star was not coming for the bounty. Did he not want it? Since he did not want the bounty, now that the Purple Snake Galactic Pirates had been annihilated, could they just cancel the bounty? This was also the usual practice. Once a wanted criminal was killed, and no one came to claim the bounty, it could be considered that the bounty had ended. However, this method was rejected by the higher-ups of the relevant departments of the Black Raven civilization. They decided to keep the bounty and wait for Black Star to claim it. There were many reasons. First, they wanted to use this opportunity to rope him in. It would be a waste if they did not take the bounty. Black Star would most likely come over in the future. Second, they were interested in the relationship between Black Star and the Ghidorah civilization. Black Star had once been attacked by Dark Star in the Fawn star system. At that time, the Dragon Emperor had brazenly attacked, and it had been earth-shattering. During that incident, the Black Raven civilization's competitor, the Holy Stone civilization, seemed to be on bad terms with Black Star. This was an opportunity. If they could use the relationship between Black Star and Ghidorah, they would be able to suppress Holy Stone. Chapter 586. Planet Golden Gate. The round trip took almost a month, and Han Shao brought the 24 spaceships back to Base Number 1. The plundering spaceships were smaller in size, and after changing the messy paint on their shells, they merged into the assault fleet. The Raven cannon battleships were of the same grade as the Berserk Falcon battleships, and they were stored in the hangar. After the repairs were completed, they could be put into use. Including the spaceships that he had obtained through cheating, Han Shao had close to 100 spaceships under his command, and they were split into 4 groups. The first group was the Fortress-class flagship, which was the core of the strategy. The second group was the Berserk Falcon and Raven cannon battleships, which were in charge of defense and frontal combat. The third group was the Dark Star assault spaceships and raiding spaceships, which were known for their speed. The fourth group was the rented transport spaceships, which were used to transport manpower. As for the Blacklight Stealth, it was Han Zhao's personal spaceship, a product of the Radiant Federation. Its grade and performance far exceeded the other spaceships of the Black Star Corps, and Rista was not willing to let too many people use its body. Seeing the last spaceship enter the hangar, Han Shao got Philip to close the hangar door and locked Sykes and the other captives in a secret cell in Base Number 1. The cell was made of an extremely tough alloy and was equipped with a large number of automatic defense weapons, such as defense turrets, nerve gas, and so on. There were also tranquilizer syringes, high-temperature cutting ray bars, strong electromagnetic confinement suction cups, large vacuum fields, and other means of control. There were also a large number of miniature cameras installed in the walls, which Philip monitored 24/7. The security was extremely tight to prevent the captives from escaping. However, on the way back, he had been extracting the super genes of these captives every day, and everyone, including Sykes, was extremely weak. Because the recovery ability of a Calamity-grade super was much stronger, Sykes was given special care, and his production was more than 5 times that of the others. Han Shao had already stored a few hundred bottles of ability potion, and he divided them into different categories. He kept a portion for himself and sold the rest in the faction store. The interior of base number 1 was like a beehive, and Han Shao could see players everywhere as he walked. He was gradually familiarizing himself with the new main city. Many people looked at Han Shao. He was a well-known NPC in the eyes of the players, and he was also the leader of the faction. When the players saw him, they felt like they were seeing a familiar face. Many people took the initiative to greet him, and Han Shao nodded in response. There was a backlog of work waiting to be dealt with in the faction. Han Shao checked Sylvia's homework and then returned to his room. He took out a concentrated nutrition bar from the refrigerator and chewed it as he dealt with the work. The first problem was to deal with the aftermath of the many players hiring missions. Other than Planet Sunil, most of the players in the Garten Star system had completed their missions and returned. This was the Black Star Corps' first large-scale hiring activity, so Han Shao took it seriously. He asked Philip to filter out the problematic records and check them one by one. Of course, not all of the players had a smooth journey. Some of the players had a low mission completion rate, and there was even a small group of people who messed around and messed up the hiring process, ruining the reputation of the Black Star Corps. For the former, Han Shao would ask Philip to sincerely apologize to the employers in the name of the Black Star Corps. For the latter, the credit points of the mercenaries would be lowered. This was equivalent to a criminal record, and the level of missions they could accept would be lowered. Since he wanted to expand the Black Star Corps with the help of the players, Han Shao was prepared for the problems that would follow. Currently, these were all small problems, and the impact of the players was naturally more beneficial than harmful. The first large-scale hiring activity stabilized the reputation brought by Ghidorah's award ceremony. Now, the first choice of the employers in the Garten Star system to find mercenaries was the local Black Star Corps. The Mercenary Alliance recognized the Black Star Corps as the leader of the Garten Star system and provided a large number of high-quality local hiring missions. The result of this was that the mercenary business in the Garten Star system was slowly being monopolized by the Black Star Corps. Although the population of a star system was huge, there were not many people who needed mercenaries. The freelance mercenaries operating in the Garten Star system suddenly realized that they could not find any high-quality jobs. The missions given by the Mercenary Alliance were mostly jobs with low pay. The freelance mercenaries were very jealous of the business that the Black Star Corps enjoyed. Many of them realized that if the Black Star Corps continued to develop at this rate, the backlog of hiring missions in the Garten Star system would be finished sooner or later. At that time, the new hiring missions would be taken by the Black Star Corps, and the freelance mercenaries would have no work to do. This was a terrible prospect. The rise of the Black Star Corps could not be stopped, and the freelance mercenaries in the Garten Star system showed 3 trends. The first was to ignore the future and be satisfied with the current situation. The second was to leave the Garten Star system and find work elsewhere. The third was to apply to join the Black Star Corps. There were many freelance mercenaries who chose this path. Now that the Black Star Corps had grown in size and had a good reputation, since the Black Star Corps had the tendency to monopolize the mercenary business in the Garten Star system, joining the Black Star Corps was not a bad choice. They would go from being victims to benefiting from the Black Star's business. In Han Zhao's business plan, there was a plan to increase the number of freelance mercenaries through the players to increase the number of freelance mercenaries. After the players joined, the number of mercenaries had already increased to a few 100,000. The basic facilities were more or less complete, and they had more than enough funds. Therefore, he did not plan to control the number of freelance mercenaries. He got Philip to filter out the background of the freelance mercenaries who applied to join and get rid of those who were obviously here to freeload missions. The first batch of freelance mercenaries that passed the screening was about 6,000 to 7,000 people. However, this number would still change. Han Xiao got Philip to send out a notice to this group of mercenaries and set a date for them to come to base number 1 for an interview in 15 days. At that time, a portion of them would probably be eliminated, and the ones left would be the new mercenaries who were truly recruited into the Black Star Corps. Recruiting more freelance mercenaries was an important part of the expansion of the Black Star Corps. The second matter to be dealt with was also related to the players. After the first solo hiring event, this group of players had a better understanding of the galactic environment and the mission flow. Many players on the forums shared the problems they had encountered during the mission. Han Xiao also paid attention to this problem. In his previous life, he had also experienced the stage where the players were not used to the environment when they first entered the galaxy, so he had a basic understanding of the problems that the players faced. A year before the launch of version 2.0, he had built a mechanical production line. Apart from creating mechanical equipment, there was also a portion of the production line that was used to increase the players' capabilities. And now, the players finally had a need for this. Han Xiao was prepared to put this portion of the production line into the faction store. Coincidentally, after the players finished the first round of hiring, most of them would return to base number 1. The sales would definitely be very good. In the shop area of base number 1, there were many people going in and out. This was the place with the highest number of players. Although they could purchase items online through Philip, they could only see the actual items in the shop area. Furthermore, this was also the place where they could pick up the items. Many players used the rewards that they had just received to purchase equipment. At this time, the faction store suddenly refreshed. A series of new products were placed at the top, and there was an eye-catching NE logo on the top right corner. There's a new product so soon? Let's see what it is. Every time the store refreshed, it would attract the attention of many players. This time was no exception. Beep beep beep. Among the crowd, the sound of communicators rang continuously. Many people took out their communicators and saw that Philip's support program had also released a notification of the store's update. It could be seen in the pre-order list. Very soon, the players realized that the new items were not combat equipment. The introduction of the new products appeared in front of them. Small land leveling core. Can quickly change the terrain in a small area into a flat open space. Can be used to build temporary strongholds. The specific parameters are multi-purpose airdrop bag. Contains many types of machinery needed for airdrop. Can adapt to all kinds of unexpected situations. Portable small foldable bunker. Can be expanded in the open space to form a temporary alloy fortress as a base. Equipped with base weapon slots and basic warning functions, automatic defense turret, a large caliber turret. Comes with 1,000 steel core bullets and 300 armor-piercing bullet. Can provide some firepower support. Patrol guard sentry. Small reconnaissance robot with reconnaissance, patrol, and warning functions. Can be used as a sentry post. Anti-interference electromagnetic wristband. Can resist electromagnetic interference and data intrusion to a certain extent. Portable strong electromagnetic interference device. Can interfere with mechanical operations within a certain range. A nuclear magnetic-powered flying backpack. Provides long-duration flight ability, comes with self-destruct function. Stress resonator, adjusts vibration frequency. Can shatter metal and concrete buildings within a large range. Worker bee armor, single soldier mining armor. Used to collect ores and fuel. Equipped with multifunctional digging tools and energy ore guns. Heavy armor, suitable for transporting ores. Players were faced with complex environments when carrying out missions. The mission requirements were different, including but not limited to infiltration, pursuit, collection, reconnaissance, assassination, frontal combat, and so on. It was also very easy for unexpected situations to occur. Although these machines added by Han Xiao were not equipment that increased combat power, they could adapt to many situations. They were tactical props that effectively increased the player's ability to deal with unexpected situations and increase their professional ability as mercenaries. The technology of these machines was not high, but they were things that players needed very much. They were cheap and affordable support prop. For example, machines like turrets were things that Han Xiao had created long ago. He had always been using turrets, but only now did he sell them to the players on a large scale. Electromagnetic turrets or energy turrets, which were more high-end, were not sold yet. What he sold were gunpowder turrets. The average level of the players was around LV-70, so gunpowder turrets could still be used. Currently, some mechanic class players could also create some of these products, but be it in terms of quality, cost, or production capacity, they were far lower than directly buying the products of the Black Star Corps. These functional props just happened to meet the new needs of the players. Seems very useful. I'm just about to accept a mission. This new product is very timely. The players were pleasantly surprised. Not only the players in base number 1, but the players on Sunil or other planets who were doing missions also received Philip's notification. They were all tempted. This was especially so for the 200,000 players on planet Sunil. They were dealing with the catastrophe and had to deal with complicated situations in the wild. They also had to clear the underground prophecy stone mines. The appearance of the worker bee armor solved their urgent needs. There was a limited number of storage units, so the players hurriedly bought them. These new products were cheap, and the demand was especially high. In less than 20 minutes, the storage units were all sold out. There were still many who did not manage to buy them and were willing to spend money to pre-order them. The players were already used to the characteristics of the Black Star Corps as a growing faction. They felt that this time, it was obvious that the players of the Black Star Corps had worked together to drive the faction's development. Looking at the new products in the faction store, many players felt a sense of accomplishment. After adding these support items, Han Xiao also observed the sales situation. Because they were functional items, they were targeted to be cheap and affordable, so their prices were relatively low. However, after selling all the items in his inventory, in less than half an hour, his funds kept rising. The player's money poured into his personal account. This time, he had earned a total of 6,600,000 anas. Including the funding from Norios and the income from selling the storage units, Han Zhao's savings had reached a total of 44 million anas. This was a huge sum of money. I have plenty of funds. With this amount of money, I can build the mechanical army as I wish. Han Xiao was very satisfied. With so much money, if it was only for his own use, it could last him for a long time. However, this money was obviously going to be used to maintain the operations of the Black Star Corps and support the expansion of the Black Star Corps. Han Zhao's blueprint for the development of the Black Star Corps was very grand. He planned to use the Garten star system as his base, pick a few dozen important NPC resource planets, and continuously build subbases. He planned to turn the Garten star system into the main base of the Black Star Corps and firmly control the mercenary business there. Then, he would expand to other star systems, build subbases in other star systems, and expand step by step. This would require a lot of money, such as buying a large number of spaceships, recruiting a large number of people, building partnerships with more organizations, and so on. The identity of a mercenary group was just a springboard. Han Zhao's real goal was to build a super-large armed force, and the Bloodshed Land was a precedent. The estimated cost of this blueprint was an astronomical figure that even he could not estimate. He only knew that the money he had now was far from enough. There was still a long way to go. However, this is not something that can be developed in a short time. Anyway, the sales channels have already been set up, and the profits are endless. I don't have to be too stingy with money. Han Xiao smiled, took out his communicator, and ordered a large batch of mechanical materials from a material supplier that he had been working with. He finally had the time to completely upgrade all his combat equipment to the Calamity Grade standard. Chapter 587. Garten Star System, Star Zone 4. A certain Godora public space station, entertainment area, erotic clubhouse. Colorful, psychedelic lights flickered and danced. Dynamic and exciting music enhanced the atmosphere. There were many round and rectangular booths here. Girls of different races were wearing skimpy clothes and dancing provocatively on the booth. Below them was a virtual screen introducing or fabricating the background and age of the girl, using all kinds of tragic and depraved stories to arouse the evil thoughts of the audience. Every booth was surrounded by a large group of male species, staring at the dancers without blinking. Their laughter was very rough, and from time to time, there would be people reaching out to touch them. Not far away was a bar with semi-private booths. Most of the people in the booths were male species, hugging hostesses of various races in their arms, touching them up and down, talking and laughing freely as if their heroism was soaring to the sky. Waitresses in revealing clothes came and went with drinks, and male guests of various races would occasionally take advantage of them. Wild laughter, whispers, and teasing sounds could be heard one after another. The whole place was filled with an extravagant atmosphere of drunkenness, as if it was dyed with a layer of dark pink that represented seduction. In a certain luxurious booth, a few male species were talking and laughing loudly, drinking glasses after glasses of alcohol. With one look, one could tell that this group of people were mercenaries. A few of them had hostesses in their arms, and their actions were very rough. Many hostesses showed a hint of pain in their eyes, but they did not dare to say anything and could only force a smile. They knew where this group of people came from. The few people there belonged to a somewhat famous mercenary group, and they were all Grade B supers. In the eyes of ordinary people like them, Grade B supers were already big shots that they could not afford to offend. However, among this group of mercenaries who were looking for fun, there was a different existence. A tall and thin man was sitting at the edge of the booth. There was no hostess beside him, and the drink in front of him was not touched at all. His back was straight and he was meticulous. His hands were on his thighs and he was sitting upright. He did not fit in with the atmosphere around him. Others were having fun here, but his expression was so serious that it was as if he was conducting a scientific research. Even the enthusiasm of the other mercenaries had cooled down. "Reynold, don't be so serious. Drink some wine too. Anyway, it's my treat this time." The leader of this mercenary group couldn't help but speak. He looked at this unusual comrade of his. He didn't appear to be condescending just because he was the leader. Instead, his tone was fawning. Leonard did not move his upper body, but he slightly turned his neck and stared at him. His eyes were glittering like an owl in the night. His tone was monotonous. "Alcohol will slow down my brain and slow down my thinking. I need to stay sober." Then you can find a woman." Without waiting for the captain to finish, Leonard continued, "Women will distract me and interrupt my thoughts. Physical desire will also affect my lucidity." "All right then," the mercenary leader smiled awkwardly. He couldn't do anything to Reynold. Reynold had a high position in his mercenary group and was indispensable. This was because Reynold was a Grade B mechanic. In the universe, the ratio of mechanics was relatively low. High-level mechanics were even rarer. Unlike pugilists, espers, and psychics, mechanics needed to learn a huge amount of knowledge. In this aspect, only mages could compare to mechanic. To a mechanic, knowledge was the fundamental way to become stronger. His team had worked with Reynold for quite a long time. Reynold had always been providing weapons, equipment, repairing spaceships, and machinery. He was responsible for the logistics of the entire team. Furthermore, he had grade B combat strength. Reynold's position was even higher than his. If not for Reynold's position being so important, the mercenary leader would not have tolerated his weird personality. This time, another mercenary started a topic. Have you heard? Recently, many freelance mercenaries want to join the Black Star Corps. They say that Black Star will monopolize the mercenary business in the Garten star system in the future. What should we do? Don't worry about them. It's still too early for Black Star to monopolize the Garten star system. When the time comes, we'll just find work in other star systems. The mercenary leader curled his lips and did not care. This time, Reynold said expressionlessly, "Let's go join the Black Star Corps." All of a sudden, silence descended. All the mercenaries looked at Reynold in shock. The mercenary leader said unhappily, "What do you mean? I'm the leader. Don't make decisions for me." Okay. Reynold nodded. He immediately took out his communicator and pressed a few buttons. Then, he stood up and left. Wait, where are you going? The mercenary leader suddenly felt that something was wrong. I'm leaving the team. Reynold walked further and further away. Everyone was dumbfounded. Leaving the team without a single word of disagreement, without a trace of hesitation. That was too decisive. The mercenary leader panicked. He hurriedly stood up and yelled, "Are you crazy? We've fought side by side for so long, and we all treat you as a friend. You're leaving just like that? I'm working with you on an equal footing. I didn't sell myself to you. Why can't I leave?" Reynold did not even turn his head. He did not stop at all. Every step he took was so precise that it was as if he had measured the distance. He left the group of mercenaries looking at each other in confusion. What is Reynold thinking? Does he think that there is no future for him following us? Someone said indignantly. The mercenary leader's face was gloomy. He flung away the barmaid in his arms, and she fell to the ground. He did not even look at her and slammed his fist on the table. Clang! Web-like cracks appeared on the table, scaring everyone. This B** starred. Without Reynold, the strength of the team would be greatly reduced. Thinking of this, the mercenary leader was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Garten star system, inside an interstellar travel spaceship. In the passenger room, Brock looked at the Black Star Corps interview notice on his communicator. His eyes flickered. He was a mixed-blood Godora, a freelance mercenary. His resume had passed the initial screening, and he was informed by Philip to go for an interview. However, being a mercenary was only a disguise on the surface. Brock's true origin was actually a spy left by Darkstar in the outside world. Before he became a mercenary, he was an elite trained by Darkstar. Darkstar's fleet had been wiped out, and almost all the higher-ups had been caught. However, there was still a portion of Darkstar members who did not follow the fleet. They were lurking in the outside world, and had been disguising their identities. These people used to be Darkstar's intelligence network, but they were now the remnants of Darkstar. Due to the leader going bankrupt and running away, they were now without a leader. Everyone was in danger. Godora had been cleaning up Darkstar's remnants recently, and it was very effective. Several Darkstar's secret intelligence lines had been uprooted. For safety, the remnants of Darkstar no longer contacted each other. Many people had their own thoughts. Some wanted to run away, some wanted to clear their names, and some wanted to turn over a new leaf. Brock was one of the people who disguised himself very well. Not long after Darkstar was destroyed, he took the initiative to cut off contact with the other remnants. There was nothing suspicious about his mercenary resume. On the surface, he did not have any interactions with Darkstar, and his identity was hidden very well. However, he had no intention of clearing his name. Before Darkstar was attacked, Brock had received orders to infiltrate Blackstar. Now, he decided to continue with this mission. With this clean identity, he could pass the interview and openly become a member of the Black Star Federation and lay low. The first reason was that Ghidorah had a close relationship with Black Star. With the identity of a Black Star mercenary, he could better protect his secrets. It was commonly known as the darkness under the light. The second reason was Brock's main motivation. He was loyal to Darkstar, hated Blackstar, and firmly believed that Darkstar's leader would return one day. The Black Star Corps is an obstacle. If I infiltrate in advance, I might be able to become a small captain or an officer. I might be able to split the Black Star Corps from the inside. When the leader returns, it will be time for me to play my role. I will become a nail in the enemy's heart. Brock's expression was cold, and he had ulterior motives. The players bought new equipment and excitedly started their new missions. While doing missions, they were also exploring the galaxy. They were still at the stage of familiarizing themselves with the galaxy. It would probably take another 2 or 3 missions for them to completely get used to the galaxy and become familiar with it. On the other hand, the hundreds of thousands of players who stayed in Blue Star continuously passed the test. Every once in a while, thousands of players would join the Black Star Corps. These players were considered newcomers, but after the influence of the forum, they at least knew how to start a mission and would not start from scratch. If there was anything they did not understand, they could ask the first batch of players who joined Black Star. Thus, Han Shao did not have to worry about the players' movements in the short term. They were on the right track and could slowly play on their own. 15 days passed quickly, and it was finally time to interview the newcomers. In the past half a month, Han Shao had built many new machines in seclusion. However, the amount of work needed to upgrade all the equipment was very large, and he had not completed it yet. He could only stop his seclusion and take some time to interview these mercenaries. In the grand hall of the base, thousands of mercenaries who came for the interview gathered. They were of different races, humans, beasts, bugs, genders, males and females. Everyone sized each other up, and it was extremely noisy. This is Black Star's base camp. It looks quite grand. Not bad. Brock looked around. When he followed the large group in, he had been observing the structure of the base, looking for weak points, memorizing them, and forming a map in his mind. After a while, the alloy floor in front of the thousands of people cracked, revealing a round hole. Han Zhao's windbreaker fluttered as he slowly flew up and landed in front of the crowd. The eyes of the thousands of people instantly gathered on Han Zhao. There was curiosity, respect, and eagerness in their eyes as if they had seen a big shot. With Han Zhao's current fame, strength, and status, he was indeed a big shot in the Garten star system. This is Black Star. Brock narrowed his eyes. He had seen Han Zhao's videos before, but this was the first time he saw him in person. He sized him up secretly. Han Zhao glanced at everyone, then turned to look at Sylvia, who was standing at the side, and nodded. Sylvia nodded, stepped forward, cleared her throat, and spoke with a clear voice. "Welcome to Black Star. You're all experienced mercenaries. Those who pass the interview will become a member of our Black Star Corps. You'll need to sign a contract to join the Mercenary Alliance. All the benefits are written in the contract. Of course, there are also the rules and regulations of the Black Star Corps, as well as the obligations you need to fulfill." After that, Sylvia obediently stepped aside. Since Huluz was not around, she was treated as Han Zhao's assistant. Han Zhao glanced around and said loudly, "You all know the rules. If you have any objections, you can leave now." The thousands of mercenaries whispered among themselves, but no one left. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Let's take the test. Han Xiao raised his hand. The method is very simple. Walk up to me one by one and let me tap you. I can roughly sense your energy rank through the touch. Those who pass, please wait at the side. Of course, no one had any objections. No one would question the ability of a calamity grade super. However, many of them were not confident. This test was purely based on Black Star's judgment. If he said you could do it, you could. If he said you couldn't, you couldn't. There was no hard and fast standard. This time, Han Xiao said, "Don't worry, those who fail, I won't let you come here for nothing. You have two choices. One is to leave, and the other is to accept Black Star's training and increase your strength through high-intensity training. During this period, you can't accept any jobs. Only after you pass the test will you be allowed to use the name of the Black Star Corps to accept jobs." He valued talents, and the more powerful freelance mercenaries, the better. However, he knew that not all capable mercenaries would be willing to join him. Talents needed to be nurtured. Therefore, Han Xiao decided to set up a mercenary training camp. Han Technician had this idea a long time ago. This was an important part of his expansion plan. In his vision, every base was not only a stronghold but also a place to recruit and train soldiers. His recruitment range was not limited to mercenaries but also ordinary people from different planets. Blue Star was an example. Apart from players, there were also people from Blue Star who wanted to explore the universe, and Sunil was the next test planet. Hearing this, the eyes of many mercenaries lit up. Even if they failed, they would have the chance to join Black Star. Their worries were instantly dispelled. Everyone lined up obediently, and Han Xiao tested them one by one. This interview method was to trigger the combat information on the interface and check the attributes of the other party. While these mercenaries were unaware, Han Xiao already knew their abilities like the back of his hand. He had even seen their trump cards a few times. It took 2 seconds to test one person, and there were 6,000 to 7,000 people there. It would take a few hours. This method was very troublesome, but freelance mercenaries had very complicated backgrounds. Many of them were not citizens of the Garten star system, so who knew where they came from? Han Xiao felt that it was better to be safe than sorry. It had been peaceful recently, so he could squeeze out this little bit of time. After a while, it was finally Brock's turn. He did not panic and walked forward to let Han Xiao pat him. There was no risk of exposure in the energy rank test. Black Star could not possibly know that he was from Dark Star just by touching him. Brock was calm and did not panic at all. It was a rare opportunity to observe Black Star up close. This was even a good opportunity to assassinate him. However, Brock suppressed these dangerous thoughts and did not waste any time. He was prepared to wait at the side like the people in front of him. The moment he turned around, he heard Han Xiao's voice behind him. Chapter 588. Why did Black Star call out to me? And his tone is so weird. Brock suddenly stood still. He was slightly shocked, and all kinds of guesses flashed through his mind. Did I give myself away? That's impossible. Brock took a deep breath and suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. He turned around to face Han Xiao and pretended to be surprised. Your Excellency Black Star, is there a problem? Han Xiao stared at Brock and sized him up. Then, he looked at the information that popped up on the interface again. His level was much higher than these freelance mercenaries. The attributes, skills, and specialties of the freelance mercenaries were no secret in front of Han Xiao. Brock's strength had barely reached grade B. Most of the freelance mercenaries who applied were grade C, and there were only a few grade B. Brock was considered an elite among them, and he was the first grade B warrior that Han Xiao had tested. However, in Brock's profession list, there was a Dark Star Elite Warrior. In the skill list, there were also skills that were trained by Dark Star. Han Xiao had been involved with Dark Star for a few years, so he naturally could not have remembered wrongly. In addition, Brock was a mixed-blood Godora, so this guy's identity was obvious. This was one of the remaining Dark Star forces, one of the secret personnel who was on the run. He actually dared to come and join my camp. This guy must have grown 10 times the courage. Han Shao narrowed his eyes. His brain worked quickly, and he instantly guessed Brock's goal of hiding under the light. He wants to gain my trust, hide in my camp and be a spy? Is this his own subjective action, or is he under orders? Han Shao thought to himself. He thought further. Not long ago, Ghidorah's people had told him bad news. They had lost the Dark Star leader and Ashes. These two guys were nowhere to be found. The leader of Dark Star was a dangerous figure. Ghidorah had let go of the chief evil, and Han Shao felt that the Dark Star leader would make a comeback sooner or later. He wondered if Brock had been instructed by the leader of Dark Star. If so, did that mean that the leader of Dark Star had a secret method to contact the remaining forces? Perhaps he could follow Brock's lead and find the leader of Dark Star. With a thought, Han Shao raised an eyebrow and smiled. He said to Brock, "You are very strong. I want to give you a special class. Are you interested?" Brock heaved a huge sigh of relief. His hanging heart was finally at ease. He immediately felt that his worries were a little unnecessary. "I'm overthinking things. It's impossible for me to be exposed." Brock completely relaxed and pretended to be flattered. "What do you need me to do?" "Oh, I want you to be the instructor of the training camp for the time being and help me train the mercenaries who have yet to reach the standard." "All right, no problem." Brock hurriedly nodded, secretly happy. Although an instructor was not considered a cadre and did not have the chance to come into contact with the Corps, this was a good start. Being given a special position as soon as he joined proved that Black Star valued him. This way, it would be easier to gain Black Star's trust. "Do your job well. Go to the side and wait for a while. After the test is over, I'll make the arrangement." Han Shao encouraged him and sent the excited Brock away. He secretly threw an observer's mark at Brock. The observer's mark could locate up to 5 targets at the same time. He still had one last empty spot left for Brock. In the future, if he wanted to mark a new target, he would need to replace one of the 5 old targets. Brock's identity as a spy had been exposed. Not only did Han Shao not get rid of Brock, but he also wanted to boldly use this person. With Philip and the observer's mark, none of Brock's little movements could escape his eyes. Once the other party made any strange movements, he would be able to discover it immediately. Of course, Brock had just joined, so in order to disguise himself, he would definitely not dare to do anything rash. Most importantly, if a spy wanted to gain his trust, he would definitely work hard without any complaint. This was a very useful coolie. If he did not squeeze him dry, he would feel bad. Coincidentally, the training camp of Base Number 1 had not been built yet. Only Grade B supers had the ability to become the instructor of a large group of Grade C supers. Training others was very troublesome. Han Shao did not want to waste his free time. He had originally planned to call Jeanette back, but now that he had Brock, it was enough. Anyway, no matter how he ordered this guy, Han Shao would not feel bad. This small episode did not cause any abnormalities, but it made many people even more excited. To them, this meant that Black Star valued talent. As long as they were strong, they would have a chance to get a better position on the spot. Time passed, and Han Shao tested them for a few more hours. About 5,000 people passed and became official mercenaries. More than 1,000 people failed and were sent to the training camp. During this time, he discovered 3 more Grade B supers. Unfortunately, their talents and skills were not outstanding, so they were at the normal level without any bonuses. They were relatively normal Grade B supers. However, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. They were Grade B supers after all. Therefore, Han Shao promoted the 3 of them to squad captains on the spot. They had the authority to gather a certain number of Black Star mercenaries to form a fixed team. There were 2 promotion systems in the Black Star Corps. The first was the individual merit system, which was from 1 star to 5 stars. The last was the honorary title of Black Star 18 Horsemen, which was promoted according to the amount of contribution, allowing the individual to enjoy better benefits. The second was the occupation system, which was the management structure of the army. Han Xiao had learned from the Sky Ring Army. The occupation system and the merit system complemented each other. The higher one's merit level or strength, the higher one's position would be, and they would be able to manage more teams. In other words, they would become a squad captain. Grade B supers met the strength requirements and could directly become squad captains. Naturally, no one had any objections. Currently, the Black Star Corps was divided into a few factions. The Sunil faction led by Herluz, the War Alliance faction led by Harmon, the Free faction led by the players and some mercenaries. This faction had the largest number of people and could be seen as the most normal group of people. There was also the Confidant faction formed by officers such as Orochia. Only Han Xiao could command the people of all these factions. Normally, these factions would do their own things. Among them, the Sunil faction and the War Alliance faction were the most obvious. The members were very close to each other and had a strong sense of cohesion. Where there were people, there would be competition. Forming factions was a problem that would inevitably arise after expansion. As the Black Star Corps expanded, the difficulty of management also increased. If they wanted to develop better, they had to imitate the other large mercenary groups and establish layers of management systems so that everyone had a clear division of labor. This was also a problem that Han Xiao had been thinking about recently. The upper echelons were a problem. Currently, all the officers were basically combatants and did not have any specific functions. Only Herluz could barely be considered his assistant. There were many empty positions, such as vice captain, area manager, mercenary manager, logistics manager, spaceship commander, and so on. These positions were like screw holes, and the elites and officers were the screws. Han Xiao had to find the right screws, put them into the holes, and tighten them. Only then would the management structure of the Black Star Corps become stable. The army has hundreds of thousands of people. The base troops are huge, but there are very few elites in the upper echelons. The structure of the forces is like a pyramid. Sigh, I need to recruit more high-level combatants. Han Xiao shook his head. Although his base troops were much stronger than many large mercenaries, high-level combatants were the weakness of the faction. He was the only Calamity grade in the Black Star Corps, and there were only about 10 Grade B elite. Compared to the 3 Calamity grade supers and thousands of Grade B supers in the Sky Ring Army, he was nothing. Han Xiao did not lack people with potential under his command. For example, Sylvia was Grade A in his previous life. Herluz seemed to have the potential to reach Grade A as well. Hela and Aurora's Esper abilities even exceeded Grade A, not to mention the players with huge potential. However, potential was not strength. These people with potential had not grown up yet, and Fu Ding, who had a protagonist aura and a powerful sister, was not his subordinate but his employer. The players were also limited by the version. At the very least, they would not be able to reach Grade B in version 2.0. If only I could get a Calamity grade to come. Han Xiao sighed. Expanding the faction came with many problems, and there were too many areas that needed to be improved. At this time, the last tester came in front of him. Han Xiao patted him, and the other party's attributes popped up on the interface. With just one look, Han Xiao's expression changed. Total level: 135? This was the freelance mercenary with the highest level among all of them. He was only 7 levels lower than him. Han Xiao was energized. He looked up and sized up this freelance mercenary named Reynold. This is a galactic human with snow-white skin. He seems to be of mixed blood. His face is a little long, and his nose is high. He is not as handsome as me, but he has a special temperament. His personality should be more rational and cold, but his eyes are bright. Wow, this guy is also staring at me. Han Xiao raised his brows and looked at the other attributes of this person. Chapter 589. Han Technician had a total of 23 talents, and Reynold only had 6 fewer than him. He had a total of 17 talents. This number was almost twice that of the other 3 Grade B freelance mercenaries. Those with high potential would frequently obtain new talents as their level increased. Currently, in the Black Star Corps, the officer with the most talents was Herluz. He had 15 talents, and his strength was much stronger than when he had first joined. When Han Xiao had recruited him, he only had 12 talent. In terms of talent quality, Fu Ding and Harmon were at the top. Both of them had molding talent. Anyone who used Fu Ding's advanced luck glow would know that it was extremely powerful. Harmon's, War God's fortitude and desperation physique, together with his low-level luck glow, were equivalent to unlocking a health bar and unlimited bloodthirsty berserk. Molding talents were the standard to differentiate between normal people, elites, and bosses. Reynold actually had a molding talent, which made Han Xiao very surprised. Perfect mechanical sense. Total machinery affinity x1. 4, including base value, passive ability bonuses, and talent bonuses. This effect is directly applied to the total value. When using mechanical force to enhance machinery, the quality of the machinery will temporarily increase by 1 to 2 grades. The highest grade will not exceed pink rare grade. The default effect of all mechanic class active abilities is +4 level. This effect can break through the upper limit of the ability. It's actually this talent. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. In his previous life, a player had posted on the forums and listed all the molding talents of Galaxy characters. Some talents were class-specific, and a perfect mechanical sense was a mechanic talent. Furthermore, it was one of the top molding talents, having 3 abilities of the same system. The total value of his machinery affinity would be increased by 1. 4. This effect was extremely powerful. Machinery affinity was the core ability of the mechanic class, and it was used to increase the power of machinery. For example, if a mechanic's various talents and abilities gave him a total of 500% machinery affinity, perfect mechanical sense would give him a bonus of 500% multiplied by 1. 4. His machinery affinity would become 700%. This bonus rule was the same as the Calamity grade talent, Superhuman. It also directly increased the total value, which meant that the stronger one's foundation was, the stronger the bonus would be. As one's level increased, the effect would also become greater. The other 2 effects of perfect mechanical sense were also very practical. The temporary increase in the quality of the machinery was equivalent to strengthening the basic attributes of the machinery. In layman's terms, even broken gray equipment would not be inferior to green equipment in his hands. The last effect was a mechanic class active skill level +4, ignoring the upper limit of the skill level. Surging mechanical force, which was equivalent to surging mechanical force at LV10, would have the effect of LV14. With this talent, one could be described as a mechanic genius that only appeared once every X years. X was greater than 100. High level, strong ability, grade B+. Leonard was the strongest person he had ever recruited. This was a high-quality wild leak. Are you a mechanic? Yes. Leonard nodded. You are very strong, even stronger than all the officers under my command. Han Xiao took this seriously and asked Philip to bring up Leonard's mercenary resume. After taking a look, he frowned. According to the data, you have 7 years of mercenary career and have been in 5 small mercenary groups. You were first active in the Hyde star system and only came to the Garten star system in the past 2 years. With your strength, you should be able to become a high-level officer in a large mercenary group. Why do you always stay in a small mercenary group? After saying that, he stared at Leonard with a questioning look in his eyes. Leonard's tone was serious. Large mercenary groups are too easy. I need more dangerous training to increase my vigilance. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. Then why do you want to join me? I have a large mercenary group here. I have already undergone enough training. What I need now is to consolidate, learn more knowledge, and break through to a higher level. Leonard's face was serious as he answered. His attitude was not perfunctory at all. Instead, he seemed overly serious. You mean, you want to step into the calamity grade? Han Xiao raised his brows. Yes. Leonard nodded calmly and added, This is also the reason why I am here. After saying that, he lowered his head slightly and said respectfully, We are both mechanics. We're both mechanics, and you've already stepped into the calamity domain. To me, you're the pioneer of this path, and I'm still exploring it. Therefore, I want your guidance. For this, I'm willing to work for you. So, this is his motive for joining. Han Xiao finally understood. It was not the benefits of the Black Star Corps that attracted Leonard but his own strength. This guy was grade B+, and he wanted to enter grade A, so he came to ask for guidance from a grade A mechanic like him, wanting to become his student. This motive was very reasonable, and there was nothing wrong with it. Among the 5 superclasses, mechanics and mages were the most humble and eager to learn. Exchanging knowledge was the norm for these 2 classes. Han Xiao understood Leonard's behavior very well. It was just like how players would find people to learn skills from. This is not a bad thing. Han Xiao pondered. Leonard had great potential. After recruiting him, the Black Star Corps would have another elite officer. He only had Sylvia as his apprentice, so adding Leonard would not be a problem. The strength and knowledge of a calamity grade super were enough to teach Leonard. As for promoting Leonard to grade A, this mainly depended on the individual's potential. Since Leonard had perfect mechanical sense, entering the calamity grade was basically a done deal. It was just that Leonard did not know about it. Han Xiao quickly made up his mind and nodded. I can give you guidance, but you will need to sign a long-term contract. Of course. Leonard nodded solemnly. He believed in the principle of giving and receiving rewards. Black Star was already much easier to talk to than he had expected. Since you are a mechanic, how about this? You will be in charge of logistics. The workshops and production lines in the base will be temporarily managed by you. Adding production lines, daily maintenance, repairs, and technical adjustments will be your job. You can gather some people. Letting Leonard be in charge of the workshops and factories could be considered a professional. With his ability, the machines he created would be enough to satisfy the needs of the players. Furthermore, Leonard also knew how to build production lines and knew many blueprints. This was the only member who could help him in the manufacturing aspect. This way, the work of building new production lines could be handed over to Leonard. Han Xiao would not have to do it personally every time. According to the needs of hundreds of thousands of players, he could save at least 1 or 2 months every year to do other things. After all, the value of one person was limited. The establishment of a logistics department was imperative. I have no problem. This position was very much to Leonard's liking. Currently, he only wanted to focus on his cultivation and did not want to go out and fight. After all the candidates were tested, Philip signed the contract with the new mercenaries and filed it with the Mercenary Alliance. Only then did these new mercenaries officially join the Black Star Army. Han Xiao clapped his hands. Other than a few talents, he got Philip to arrange the positions for the new mercenaries. He got Sylvia and some of the older mercenaries to help the new mercenaries familiarize themselves with the work. In another 2 days, these new mercenaries would officially start working. This time, they had recruited several thousand people. Including the original veteran mercenaries, the number of NPC mercenaries in the Black Star Army had increased to around 8,000. Compared to the scale of the players, the number of NPC mercenaries was still very small. It was very difficult for them to grow explosively. They could only continue to recruit talents and slowly accumulate them. The biggest reward this time was Leonard. Even Han Xiao could not help but be tempted by the perfect mechanical sense template. If he could obtain this talent, not only would he be tanky, but he would also be strengthened in all aspects. It was a pity that he could not find a way to obtain this template talent. Leonard was not an enemy, and even if he was, he might not be able to obtain the perfect template. However, Han Xiao had plenty of patience. 2 days later, the new mercenaries all started their own businesses. The training camp of Base Number 1 was also officially established. More than 1,000 failed candidates became the first batch of students, and Brock, as the only instructor, officially took up his post. On the first day, he was so tired that he almost vomited blood. Training mercenaries was not as simple as just talking. One had to be in actual combat, and it was easy to get injured if one was not careful. One person was responsible for training more than 1,000 people. Brock's workload was so heavy that he did not have time to do anything else. By the end of the day, he was on the verge of breaking down. The thought of having to continue such a heavy workload the next day made Brock feel cramps in his legs. However, after the first day of work as an instructor, Han Xiao purposely came over to motivate him, and Brock was instantly energized. Han Xiao's attitude gave him the wrong idea. Brock thought that Black Star had noticed his performance and that he was given this special job as soon as he joined, which meant that Black Star valued him. After all, among all the candidates, only he and that mechanic called Leonard received special treatment. Maybe this was Black Star testing his ability. As long as he completed the instructor's mission and proved himself, he might be accepted by Black Star and be promoted to a senior officer. After becoming a senior officer, he would be able to monitor the information flow of the Black Star Corps. With that in mind, Brock decided to grit his teeth and complete the instructor's mission alone without looking for an assistant. This was the only way to prove his ability to the greatest extent and improve his impression in Black Star's mind. How dedicated! In the room, Han Xiao in his chaos body monitored Brock's actions and could not help but sigh. As expected, people with ulterior motives are the best. Deactivating his chaos body and returning to his human form, Han Xiao tidied his clothes, walked out of the room, and went to the machinery modification room in the base. Leonard and Sylvia were already waiting there. Today was the day of class. Sylvia was already used to Han Xiao giving her special treatment. However, today there was another person sharing her teacher, so she felt very awkward. She secretly sized up Leonard from time to time with some hostility. Leonard, on the other hand, did not look away. He stared straight at Han Xiao with a very serious expression. From today onward, he would be learning from Black Star. This was an opportunity that he had exchanged for with a 5-year contract, so he valued it very much. Standing in front of the two, Han Xiao glanced at them, thought for a while, and said, "The difference in strength between the two of you is too big. Leonard, I'll teach you first. Sylvia, you can watch from the side." The difference in strength between the two of them was too big. The knowledge that was too profound for Sylvia was just the basics in Leonard's eyes. Of course, he could not teach them together. As soon as he said that, Sylvia's eyes widened. Teacher is teaching the newcomer first. She immediately felt that it was unfair. She glared at Leonard, but she realized that he did not even look at her. She could only puff up her little face and sulk. Bringing Leonard and the angry Sylvia to the side, Han Xiao cleared his throat and prepared to start the lesson. This time, Leonard quickly took out a pen and a small notebook from his pocket. What are you doing?" "Recording the content of the lesson. With a serious expression, Leonard wrote down the 2 sentences with a few strokes. Han Xiao glanced at it, and his mouth twitched slightly. There's no need to record the content of the conversation. No, any omission is disrespectful to you. Then, wouldn't it be better if you recorded it? No, as a mechanic, mastering all the details is also a training method. Without saying anything, Leonard wrote down the conversation again. He even drew out Han Xiao's expression when he spoke. The speed of a mechanic was naturally unquestionable. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, he finished recording. This is too inflexible. He's more like a mechanic than I am. Han Xiao had a general understanding of the personality of this new partner. His mouth twitched, and he officially started the lesson. Instead of teaching, it was more like sharing knowledge. What Leonard really lacked was high-end knowledge. After all, it was very difficult for him to save money, and he did not have the connections like Han Xiao did. Therefore, Han Xiao slowly explained the high-end knowledge. Anyway, Leonard was not a player, so he could not learn it overnight. He had to learn slowly. Leonard listened very seriously, and his pen never stopped. Sylvia, who was beside him, was confused. This knowledge was too profound for her, so she could not understand it. Gritting her teeth, Sylvia forced herself to focus and memorize the content. Leonard's appearance made her feel a sense of danger. She did not want to be left far behind. After teaching Leonard, Han Xiao went on to teach Sylvia. However, Leonard did not leave early but listened by the side. Even though what Sylvia learned was too shallow for him, he did not show any impatience and still listened very seriously. Time passed slowly. Han Xiao finally stopped talking. He looked at the time, announced the end of the class, and hurriedly left to continue building his machinery. Only Sylvia and Leonard were left in the room. The two of them stared at each other. If there's anything you don't understand, I can teach you. There was still a long way to go. Leonard felt that he had to build a good relationship with Black Star's apprentice, so he showed a smile that he thought was kind. However, he rarely smiled, so his smile was very ferocious. Who needs you to teach me? Sylvia rolled her eyes and could not help but say, You're new. You have to call me senior sister, understand? Leonard immediately frowned. *T. He can't be angry, right? Sylvia's heart skipped a beat, and she immediately regretted it. Leonard could crush her with one hand. He was even stronger than her lose. Asking such a strong person to lower his head to her, a super who had barely reached grade C. He would probably think it was an insult. However, Leonard pondered for a while, nodded, and said with a serious tone, Senior sister. Ah, you really called me that? Sylvia was stunned for a moment. She looked embarrassed, and her tone was unnatural. I was just joking with you. No, you're right. I thought about it just now. Since I'm new, calling you senior sister is what I should do. I was rude just now. I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. There was no dissatisfaction on Leonard's face. His expression was serious, and his tone was still as serious as if he would argue with someone at any moment. Sylvia's face froze. She could not stand Leonard's overly serious attitude. She smiled and said, No need to be so serious. Just call me by my name. No, I have to call you senior sister. Otherwise it'll be too rude. Leonard's tone was serious. He even lowered his head to show respect. Sylvia's scalp went numb. She could not stand it anymore. She quickly picked up her books and ran away. After the mercenary interview, Han Xiao spent almost all his time upgrading his combat machinery. It's finally done. Chapter 590. In the room, a strong metallic smell lingered in the air, and heat waves from the high-temperature smelting were still floating in the air. Han Xiao was already used to this smell. He took out the last piece of machinery from the rapid cooling box, turned it into a compressed orb, and placed it on the table. Rows of compressed orbs were placed on the alloy table in front of him. They were all new generation machinery. The new generation machinery created with the ability of a grade A mechanic completely surpassed the old equipment he had created when he was still a grade B mechanic in terms of technology, attributes, functions, and power. Thus, it replaced the old equipment and became his standard combat weapon. The old equipment could no longer keep up with the battles at the Calamity grade level, and it had entered the ranks of backup weapons. This time, Han Shao had completely changed the equipment, and the scale was the largest so far. The original combat mode had not changed, and it was still the single soldier style with the mechanical suit as the core. Han Shao had strengthened the mechanical weapons of this mode. Buzz. With a flash of light, mechanical force activated a portion of the compressed orbs. After a series of mechanical sounds, 36 new generation hovering shield shuttles floated up and circled around Han Shao. The new generation hovering shield shuttles was called DT-03 Nanotransformable Hovering Guard, and the equipment was called Watcher Protocol. Compared to the previous generation Halo array, the Watcher Protocol had many changes. First, the appearance of the hovering shield shuttles had changed from spindle shuttles to rhombus-shaped shuttles with more edges. The color had also changed from white to dark red, and the edges were the bright gold of the Kyle alloy. In terms of functions, the most obvious change was the energy source. Every hovering shield shuttle was equipped with an ultra-miniature plasma arc reactor, which used controllable cold nuclear fusion. There was plenty of energy, extremely low radioactivity, and high output power. Furthermore, the power could be easily adjusted, and it was very controllable. The equipment quality was dark purple. Han Shao now had the high-end energy knowledges, high energy control, and high energy weapon application. Before building the new generation machinery, he had raised the blueprints of these machinery to the maximum level and obtained some potential points. Together with his original reserves, he had spent 21 potential points to upgrade these two knowledges to LV5 and LV4 respectively. Thus, in terms of energy, he already had very good technology. The main goal of this equipment upgrade was to innovate the energy core. Most of the machinery had been changed to controllable nuclear fusion energy. There were also different blueprints for nuclear fusion reactors. The plasma arc reactor was one of Han Zhao's most advanced energy core blueprints. The technology could be summarized as using electricity to form a magnetic field inside to heat up the plasma and induce a nuclear fusion reaction. It was efficient, clean, and controllable. The cutting-edge knowledge above the high-end energy knowledge was the research on the more powerful and unstable antimatter energy and psionic energy. Usually, only star cluster civilizations would have cutting-edge knowledge, and Han Shao could only obtain high-end knowledge at the moment. In the short term, Han Shao had no intention of obtaining cutting-edge knowledges. Since he had become a virtual mechanic, the cost of obtaining cutting-edge knowledges for the armed and energy classes would be 3 times the original cost. Currently, he only had 2 potential points left. With a flash of mechanical force, Han Shao controlled the Watcher instrument and gradually tested the various functions. First was the most basic cannon power. He had Philip open the weapon test module in the machinery modification room, and an alloy wall rose from the ground. The golden edges of the hovering shield shuttle glowed with azure blue energy. Then, the sharp edges of the hovering shield shuttle suddenly opened up, turning into a round muzzle. The azure blue laser shot out and easily penetrated the alloy wall, leaving a hole that penetrated from the front to the back. The penetrative power is very strong, Han Shao nodded. Although the interface introduced the attack power of the weapon, it had always been his habit to test it out personally. He then switched the power mode and tested the explosive, assassination, suppression, and full power mode. Because the energy was highly controllable, it had many attack methods. Han Shao also tested the shield function of the Watcher instrument. Unlike the shield formed by the Halo array, the Watcher instrument could form a shield with a very high shield value. The most convenient function of the Watcher instrument was its nanotransformation ability. It could be combined with each other to become a larger caliber hovering shield or a larger shield. It could also become a handheld cannon. In battle mode, the Watcher instrument could even be combined with the Berserk Ape mechanical suit. The ultra-miniature plasma arc reactor of each hovering shield shuttle could continuously provide energy to the mechanical suit. As expected of a grade A mechanics super weapon. Without needing any other machinery, Han Shao believed that he could beat her lose with just this Watcher instrument. Satisfied, he put down the hovering shield shuttle and activated another bunch of compressed orbs. This time, he activated the giant mechanical hand. Its energy core had been updated, and its various functions had been significantly improved. The giant mechanical hand had always been a piece of multifunctional equipment. It could be slapped, and its fingertips or palms could release ion cannons. It could also turn into compressed orbs and hide in the hands and feet. It could also turn into an electromagnetic lock to control the target. It could also turn into various tools to change the terrain or assist in building giant machines. It could be considered a versatile tool. Han Shao also added a new function to the giant mechanical hand. The giant mechanical hand could combine with each other and become a Buddha's palm with an area of tens or even hundreds of meters. It could also combine into an aircraft carrier. Although the Berserk Ape mechanical suit had interstellar travel capabilities, that was for individual soldiers. The combined aircraft carrier of the giant mechanical hand could carry a small team. Speaking of aircraft carriers, Han Shao had also developed an important machine. Short-range warp engine. This blueprint came from the combination of the basic spatial technology, advanced detection technology, advanced application of quantum entanglement and interstellar travel technology. Unlike the large warp engines of interstellar spaceships, the short-range warp engine was mainly for individual soldiers or small aircraft. Of course, although it was called short-range, it was only relative to large warp engines. It was not really short. The warp engine also had limitations, which was that it needed a long period of coordinate guidance. The short-range warp engine's guidance time was 12 seconds. During this time, it could not be moved or interrupted. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous if the coordinates deviated. The cooldown time was at least 2 minutes. The Radiant Federation microsecond warp technology of the Blacklight stealth was very high-end. Han Shao could not do it at the moment. Even so, this equipment was still very useful. It could be used for large-scale strategic movements or travel. Han Shao had already added a short-range warp engine to the Berserk Ape and some aircraft. The effect was very good. It was equivalent to the mechanical version of Hex's Flash. As for the load from individual warp, it was not even an itch for Han Shao. As a void species, their resistance to space was very high. Apart from individual equipment strengthening, the Mech Legion also underwent a large change. First, the original 4 army designations were restored. Number 001, Mechanical Beast Guards Army. Number 002, Assault Artillery Army. Number 003, G1 Steel Army, and Number 101, Oathkeeper's Personal Guards. At the same time, Han Shao also slightly increased the size of these armies. On this basis, Han Shao added 2 more army designations. Number 004, G2 Heavy Iron Cavalry. This was an army made up of 600 heavy-armored mechanical soldiers. They had the size of small giants and were equipped with high-speed propulsion vehicles. They charged forward like iron cavalry and had extremely strong impact force. They could easily pierce through the formation of an army. These heavy iron cavalry mainly focused on close combat. They were equipped with high-temperature cutting tools, high-speed drills, spiral saws, and other killing weapons. Number 005, Miniature Cube Army. A special army formed by 1,500 miniature mechanical soldiers. These mechanical soldiers were called cube robots. They were only about the size of a normal human's palm, but they had all the essentials and had very high individual combat capabilities. This kind of small army could play a miraculous role in certain situations. This was also Han Zhao's original intention for creating this army. This army also had another function. The blueprint of the cube robots came from a super nanopower. They also had nanotransformation functions and could combine with each other to form larger mechanical soldiers. It could also be understood that each cube robot was a component of a large mechanical soldier. These components could move freely and combine at the right time to form another mechanical soldier. According to current statistics, the size of the Mech Legion had already reached 20,000. The workshop was producing new mechanical soldiers every day, and the number was still increasing. The additional mechanical soldiers were directly merged into different armies or used as backup. In addition, the weapons of all the mechanical soldiers were also upgraded. 4 close combat weapons, vibration converters, high-pressure cutting knives, and so on were added. 4 long-range weapons, plasma cannons, heat cannons, and radiation guns were added. This enhancement was also reflected in the turret. Han Xiao had created a new type of turret. Ammunition and explosives were also improved. New types of ammunition such as vacuum oxygen bombs, space distortion bombs, thermonuclear mines, small-yield nuclear grenades, and orbital sniper bombs were added. Other than the original combat mode, Han Xiao also added 2 new tactics. The first was the strong control style. Han Xiao had fused the blueprint of an electromagnetic superconductor particle. It was about the size of a grain of rice. He had created a lot of them, and they were placed in front of him like a pile of black sand. The superconductor particles contained strong magnetism and could be controlled by electromagnetic mechanical force. This set of equipment was also called strong electromagnetic swamp. When used, the superconductor particles would be like a black flood, carrying strong electromagnetic force. Once they came into contact with the target, the superconductor particles would wrap around the target and release a strong suction force, making it difficult for the target to move. The longer they were controlled, the wider the coverage of the superconductor particles, and the harder it would be for the target to break free. Furthermore, through mechanical force, the strong electromagnetic swamp could be shaped into various shapes. This weapon was like a swamp that actively captured the target. It was also like a materialized magnetic field. This was a strong control equipment, but it lacked lethality. Han Zhao's inspiration came from ashes. That guy's combat style of controlling carbon particles had inspired him. The strong electromagnetic swamp also controlled particles, and it looked quite similar to ashes. The second new combat mode was a very despicable tactic. In his previous life, the players called this combat style the strategic support style. A few months ago, when Dark Star attacked Blue Star, using their main cannon to attack him in outer space, this was the strategic support style. The essence of this combat style was to summon missiles to bombard the ground, summon space-based weapons to attack, summon fleets to attack. It was equivalent to an upgraded version of the firepower coverage style. It was also known as playing gangster. The army style crushed most of the mechanic styles. Only 2 styles were the most troublesome opponents for the army style. One was the virtual intrusion style, which was the virtual mechanic that Han Xiao had advanced. The other was the strategic support style. Han Xiao put down all the compressed orbs and looked at the other side of the modification room. There was a huge machine there. Chapter 591. This railgun was called Eye of God. It was a space-based satellite weapon and could move independently from the spaceship. It was placed at the edge of outer space and the atmosphere, orbiting around the planet. The Eye of God was not a particle beam weapon like the main cannon of Dark Star. Instead, it used a physical shell. The size of the bullet was very large, and it could be combined with different types of ammunition. There were more tactical options. It could hit the surface from outer space and gain more kinetic energy through the acceleration and gravity acceleration. With the support of his virtual technology algorithm, the coordinates of the attack were very accurate. The cost of making this railgun was very high, second only to the Berserk Ape mechanical suit. This did not include the cost of every shot. After spending so much money, the return was naturally not bad. The attack power of the Eye of God was very high. It was like a huge cannon placed in outer space. There were only two limitations. First, its attack speed was very slow, and the shell had to fly for a while. Second, it could not be used in galactic battles and could only be used to attack the surface. It was very suitable for the mercenary business of airdropping cabins. This weapon was the most destructive means Han Shao had, but he only had one at the moment. The strategic support style was only in its infancy. However, Han Shao had money in his pocket, so he could make more if he had the time. After the strategic support style was fully formed, it would not take long for hundreds of railguns to fire at the same time to flatten the surface of an asteroid. It fully demonstrated the logic of the mechanic class being rich. When other supers were stuck at a bottleneck, only the mechanic class could steadily increase their combat power by burning money. With this set of equipment, I can finally be considered to have the strength of my level. Han Shao nodded in his mind. The total cost was close to 1,000,000 anas. After updating all his combat machines, his destructive power had truly reached the level of a natural disaster. He could summon a nuclear bomb at any time and destroy the ecology on the surface of a planet. The Watcher Protocol, mechanical prosthesis, short-range warp engine, Mech Legion number 004 and number 005, electromagnetic swamp, Eye of God. After roughly counting all his machines, Han Shao packed up the compressed orbs and wore them on his body. Large weapons like the Mech Legion and space-based satellites were placed in the spaceship warehouse. Other than the combat machines, Han Shao had also fused an interesting blueprint during this period of time. He had also built it for spaceship boarding battles. The Ravager's charge cabin was a landing device. This was an external suspension cabin that was installed on the spaceship. It was equipped with shock-absorbing equipment, and a portion of the landing crew could ride inside. The moment the enemy spaceship's shield was broken, the assault cabin would launch out and bite the enemy spaceship. Then, the assault cabin would be inserted into the enemy spaceship's outer armor through the assault cabin's embedded equipment. The hot melting and cutting equipment would burn open the armor and send the landing crew inside into the enemy spaceship. Of course, if the situation was not good, the assault cabin could also self-destruct. In interstellar wars, charge cabins were often used. The people who landed inside naturally had no way to retreat. They would fight to the death. If they didn't succeed, they would die trying. Basically, they were a suicide squad. Han Shao felt that this thing was very suitable for players. That was the real dare-to-die team. Just the thought of raising both hands high and shouting "Woola Woola" or something like that was very cool. Han Shao had recently been researching the Berserker Falcon-class spaceship, but he was missing a part of his knowledge. He was stuck in the process of reverse engineering. In his previous life, high-level mechanic-class players could also build spaceships, but it was basically a team job. Everyone had different knowledge, so they had to assemble different parts. Han Shao did not want to divide the work. He wanted to learn the entire process of building spaceship. Building spaceships independently was a milestone special legendary point, just like the legendary hunter milestone that he had yet to complete. However, he was still missing a part of his knowledge, and he was currently lacking potential points. This was a little difficult. After entering the galaxy, Han Shao did not harvest experience on a large scale. He mainly harvested wallets. After all, after leveling up, he needed time to update his equipment. Furthermore, He had spent quite a lot of experience to upgrade and fuse blueprint. Therefore, his current experience reserve was almost empty. I'll find a time to harvest a wave of experience, Han Xiao pondered. His equipment had been updated. Other than obtaining potential points, he also needed to continue increasing his strength. I'm now level 142. Although I've just entered Grade A, with a full set of equipment, my combat strength can be compared to people of higher levels. Furthermore, my talent is very tanky, so I have a huge advantage. If the opponent's ability is too common, my chances of winning will be greatly increased. Han Xiaoxin evaluated his own combat strength. Generally speaking, most people in Galaxy would enter Grade A between level 150 and 160, depending on their talents, skills, and attribute. However, he had entered Grade A at level 140. Even among those amazing protagonists, this was rare. After reaching Grade A, every 20 levels of promotion or every main class advancement could be considered as a watershed. Han Xiao was currently between level 140 and level 160, so the EXP required to level up was very high. Almost all of them started at 1 billion EXP. In his previous life, by the time the level cap was released, the experience required to level up was already in the tens of millions. Even so, players still needed to work hard for a long time before they could level up. Even if he could take advantage of the players, it was still very difficult to accumulate enough experience to reach level 160. In the short term, there was no hope of promotion. However, there was another way to increase his strength, which was to change his main class. Han Zhao's virtual mechanic was currently level 17. He only needed 3 more levels before he could change his class, which would cost him about 3 billion experience. This time, Han Xiao did not plan to sell knowledge. That was a one-time sale, and there was a limited amount. Furthermore, it was not suitable to give it to the players at once. He decided to teach the blueprint skills. This was a larger chain of benefits. Although the blueprint skills were only targeted at mechanic players, and the profit was not as high as promotion knowledge, the advantage was that there were too many blueprints that could be fused from different knowledge combinations. In version 1.0, Han Xiao pretended to be a mechanic instructor and tricked more players into changing their class to mechanic in order to expand the market for blueprint skills. Furthermore, he did not only sell low-level blueprints to the players. He could also sell high-level blueprints. The players did not have enough knowledge, so even if they bought high-level blueprints, they would not be able to use them for the time being. However, there would still be people who would buy them, because having a high-level blueprint that they could not use for the time being was better than not having one. He had never underestimated the desire of the Chinese players to stock up. Thinking of the players, Han Xiao opened the forums and took a look. The forums were bustling all the time. The strategic equipment that he had sold the last time was used by the players in their new employment missions. Many people took screenshots and shared them. Among them, the Worker Bee armor was especially well received. It allowed many life players to find a new source of income. Fighting and killing were not good. Mining was more practical. The second most well-received item was actually the nuclear magnetic flying backpack. The focus of the comments was not on the flying backpack, but on the explosion. This made Han Xiao even more confident in the Raider charge cabin. He knew that self-destruction was the best match for the players. He scanned through a few pages of posts. Other than sharing posts, chatting posts, and spamming posts, there were also some high-level players making guides and introducing new strategies. After looking for a while, Han Xiao suddenly realized that one of the posts had become popular, and it quickly rose to the top. Wayne Card Beginner's Guide. Third issue. He clicked in and took a look. The player who made the post was obviously mesmerized by the Wayne card. He did not use the money he earned to buy equipment but actually used it all to make up a deck. Wow, a salted fish. playing with these fancy things every day instead of focusing on killing monsters. These players have been corrupted by the Wayne cards. Han Zhao's mouth twitched. Could it be that the Wayne card was his biggest business competitor? After a rough glance, he realized that the shattered Star Ring card deck had been updated. This was also the focus of the post. The Black Star core was among the updated cards. Shattered Star Ring card deck adjustments. Mercenary card Black Star Mercenary changed to Mercenary card / Force card Black Star core. Card attributes increased, new special effect added. Civilization card God Aura card attributes increased. Force card Floating Dragon Island card attributes increased. Strong card Black Star Han Shao added. History card Destruction of Dark Star added. Original Force card Dark Star moved to discarded card deck. Han Shao instantly understood why this post had suddenly become popular. In the eyes of the players, the Black Star core represented their faction. Seeing their faction appear in the deck, the players were extremely excited. The way they saw it, the changes to the Wayne card reflected the results of their contribution to the growth of their faction. The update of the Wayne card showed the trend of all the regions in Galaxy to a certain extent. There was actually a new strong card that was exclusive to him, and the attributes of the strong card were not bad. This meant that his deeds had already spread far and wide, and he had already become a famous person. Han Xiaoxin suddenly realized that the Wayne card seemed to be a set of hidden rankings, showing a person's fame and status in the galaxy. After looking at the forums for a while and taking some potions from Sykes and the other secret prisoners, Han Shao closed the door and left the machinery modification room. Although he had delayed building machinery for almost 2 months, Han Shao did not forget about the mission of sending Hela and Aurora to Floating Dragon. Now that the Black Star core had expanded, the players and normal mercenaries shared a large number of missions, and he did not seem to have received any difficult missions that required him to personally take part in. Therefore, Han Shao decided to complete Aim's instructions first. Hela was usually in the combat training room, and Aurora should be there as well. On the way, he met Sylvia, who had a panicked look on her face as if she was hiding from something. She hurriedly greeted him and ran away. Han Shao did not take it to heart. After walking for a while, he saw Reynold looking around at the intersection, so he went up and said a few words of encouragement. Seeing that Reynold was about to take out his little notebook, Han Shao hurriedly shut up and walked away with large strides. When he arrived at the combat training room, as expected, Hela was undergoing actual combat training there, and Aurora was also forcefully dragged to join in. Due to her past experience, Hela's pursuit of strength was very strong. After entering the galaxy and seeing so many strong people, her sense of danger had become more and more serious. She wished that she could not sleep every day and spend all her time on training. The effect was also very obvious. The combat training room of the galactic era could simulate actual combat and force out the combat potential of supers. Hela's talent had always been very good, and coupled with her hard work, her strength had increased by quite a lot recently. A few days ago, Han Shao sparred with Hela and found that Hela had already leveled up a few times. Han Shao opened the door, and the virtual combat scene disappeared. Hela then stopped, wiped the sweat on her forehead with the back of her hand, and said with a frown, "What are you doing here? Do you want to spar?" She was currently wearing a black battlesuit that was extremely tight. It looked like a layer of black skin, outlining her fiery figure. Her front and back were perky, extremely provocative. Han Shao looked and shook his head helplessly. He could not help but say, "I say, can't you change into a more useful combat suit? Don't I have armor for you to choose? It's too cumbersome." Hela showed a look of disdain. "What cumbersome? That's called safety. Aren't you just saying that it doesn't look good? What do you know about aesthetics?" Han Shao rolled his eyes. "TSK woman." While the two of them were arguing, Aurora held her knees with both hands, bent over and panted. She could not even speak. She was forced to participate in the special training, and she could not keep up with Hela's strength. She was so tired that her whole body was about to fall apart. However, Aurora was not unwilling at all. She had gone through tough times and knew the importance of strength. She did not do the special training half-heartedly, which was why she was so tired. After all, virtual combat would not cause real damage. If she had just been slacking, she would not be so tired. Han Xiao took out a high-energy nutrition bar, threw it to Aurora, and said, "All right, stop training. Pack up, I'll bring you to Floating Dragon Island." Aurora heard this and hurriedly stopped tearing the packaging of the nutrition bar. She said in surprise, "Can I finally see Big Sister Ames?" Hela's eyes sparkled, and her lips curled up slightly. After entering the galaxy, she completely understood Ames' reputation in the universe. She had been looking forward to officially training with her for a long time. Beep beep beep. Han Xiao was about to say a few more words when his communicator suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was actually a communication request from Ames. She said that the Dragon Emperor had arrived. "Ames. Black Star, when will you send my students over?" Ames' projection appeared. She had a half-smile on her face, and a pair of long, white, python-like legs appeared in front of Han Xiao's eyes. "I was dealing with some things previously, so it took some time. I'll send them to Floating Dragon Island in a few days." Han Xiao nodded. "Okay." Ames pondered for a while and suddenly said, "You better come quickly. When you arrive, I want you to accompany me to a place." "Where?" "Bloodshed Land." Ames' tone was calm, and no emotions could be heard. Han Xiao raised his brows and had an ominous feeling. He felt that his leisure time was about to disappear again. "Can I not go?" "Humph, no." Chapter 592. Han Xiao had no choice but to put away his communicator and fall into deep thought. Why is Ames going to Bloodshed Land? Is she going there to cause trouble? Malekith had said that Ames and Bloodshed Land had a conflict in the past. The tyrant had poached one of her capable officers, and the two of them had fought an earth-shattering battle. In the end, Ames had lost and left. Han Xiao felt that Ames was most likely up to no good this time. Why did she have to drag me along? Does she want me to help her stop the officers under the tyrant? Han Xiao's mouth twitched. He had become the strongest officer of Floating Dragon. In the past, Ames did not have anyone under her command. Now that she finally had someone who could fight, was she going to order him around? There were many strong people under the tyrant, and the 8 Grade A Vanguard officials were just the tip of the iceberg. There were more than just Vanguard officials in the upper echelons. If Ames only brought him to Bloodshed Land, she would be fine, but it was hard to say what would happen to him. "I hope she's not going there to fight." Han Xiao felt a headache coming on. Hela watched the entire conversation and asked, "What kind of place is Bloodshed Land?" "That's a gathering place for a bunch of musclemen. It's very dangerous," Han Xiao said with annoyance. As Ames had asked him to move quickly, Han Xiao did not delay. He found Reynold and told him to stay in base number 1. He then found Sylvia and told her to take care of the trivial matters. This was mainly just a formality. The real manager of base number 1 was Philip. Han Xiao could remotely control the situation of the base, so he did not have much to tell her. Even though he was not in the base, the Black Star Corps could still operate normally. It only took half an hour to deal with the trivial matters. Han Xiao called Hela and Aurora, who had changed into clean clothes, and the 3 of them boarded the Blacklight Stealth that was parked in the hangar. Boom! The ceiling of the hangar opened, and the anti-gravity stabilizer at the bottom of the Blacklight Stealth was activated, emitting a faint blue light. The spaceship rose vertically into the air, and then the thrusters shot out purple flames. In the blink of an eye, the flying ship turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the horizon. Floating Dragon Island. The blacklight stealth exited its hyperdrive state and slowly caught up to Floating Dragon, landing on the dock. Is this Floating Dragon? Walking down from the spaceship, Aurora looked around curiously and saw the thugs gathered at the dock. They all looked fierce and were obviously not good people. The thugs all turned to look at him. Seeing this, Hela quickly followed and stood beside Aurora. She looked around vigilantly at the thugs around her, like a mother leopard protecting its cub. There's no need to be so nervous. Although Floating Dragon Island allows galactic pirates, scavengers, and wanted criminals to stop here, fighting is not allowed here. I'm talking about under normal circumstances. Ahem, anyway, they're all very tame and won't bite. As Han Shao spoke, he walked to the two of them and put his hand on Hela's shoulder. He looked around and said to the thugs around him, "Hey, what are you guys still looking at?" Hearing this, the thugs around him all looked away and continued doing their own things. Han Zhao's spaceship was too famous, and no one wanted to provoke Black Star on Floating Dragon Island. Hela glanced at Han Shao, then looked at the hand on her shoulder and shifted her body uncomfortably. "My friend, you're back again." This time, Wilsander's voice sounded not far away. He had received the news long ago and was waiting there to welcome Han Shao. What Han Shao did not expect was that Jenny had also come and was standing behind Wilsander. He greeted Wilsander, then looked at Jenny and smiled. "You're here too. Work has been quite busy recently, right? You seem to be quite tired." Jenny was expressionless. She took the weapon from the guard and fired at Han Shao crazily, without saying anything. Boom, boom, boom. Han Shao allowed the small caliber laser to hit his body. It exploded into pieces of light, but it could not hurt him at all. At the side, Aurora was dumbfounded. Hela clenched her fists slightly as if she was hesitating if she should stop it. Wilsander had a helpless expression and kept shaking his head. When the gun barrel overheated and could not continue firing, Jenny threw the gun down and said indifferently, "Ames is waiting for you in the palace." Then, she turned around and left. She knew that she could not hurt Han Shao, so she just wanted to vent her frustration. As the manager, Jenny was probably very busy during this period. Han Shao was very understanding and did not mind letting Jenny have some fun. Anyway, this would not affect his future operations. He could expand as much as he wanted. Jenny's leisure days would never come back. Han Shao patted his clothes and did not mind. He turned to look at Hela and said, "Let's go. I'll bring you to see Ames." The two looked at each other and had nothing to say. They could only nod. After saying goodbye to Wilsander, they went all the way to the palace in the center of the floating island. Han Shao led the three of them into the palace. A dragon bone throne floated in the middle of the palace. Ames sat on it and looked at the three of them. She sighed and said, "Black Star, you are so slow. You took a few months to send them here." Han Shao did not comment. Hela and Aurora nodded. Ames controlled the force field and lowered the height of the throne. She landed in front of the three of them and smiled. "Okay, you are my students from now on. You can call me teacher." "Teacher," the two of them replied. Ames was very comfortable with this title. Her smile became even gentler. She used to call Aesop that. Now that she had her own students, it felt very special. "Although our Esper abilities are different, I can teach you how to develop your Esper abilities. Using my experience, I can help you stimulate your potential," Ames said gently. Hela nodded solemnly. "Okay, when do we start?" She was a training maniac. With such a powerful teacher, she could not wait to start training. Unexpectedly, Ames shook her head. "Not now. I want you to accompany me to a place." Han Shao raised an eyebrow and interrupted. "Bloodshed Land." "Yes, the three of you have to accompany me. Bring Hela and Aurora?" "It does not seem like they are going to fight." Han Shao heaved a sigh of relief. This was good news. He did not want to provoke another beyond grade A super organization for no reason. However, to confirm Ames' intentions, Han Xiao asked, "That is Heber's territory. I heard that you have a grudge with him. Why are we going there?" Ames' smile disappeared, and she slowly said, "The tyrant is an ambitious guy. We are not on the same path. He even poached a talent that I relied on in the past, but this time, we are not going there to cause trouble. Every once in a while, the tyrant will hold a grand gathering and send out invitations to the big shots of the Shattered Star Ring. Basically, everyone will show up. The people who attend the gathering include the high officials of star cluster civilizations, representatives of some large organizations, and even the emissaries of the 3 universal civilizations. The beyond grade A supers of the Shattered Star Ring are naturally among the people he invited. I also received an invitation. Humph, although this guy is annoying, he is indeed an unfathomable character. Back then, I attacked their headquarters, but the next gathering, the tyrant still invited me. In short, the tyrant's gathering has been going on for many years, and it has become an unspoken tradition among the large organizations. This is an opportunity for many big shots to expand their network. The tyrant is able to control the situation and has the qualifications to be the host. During the gathering, many big shots will interact and discuss different topics. Every time there is a gathering, a lot of information will leak out. The topics that these big shots discuss during the gathering will mostly affect the future development of the Shattered Star Ring. So that's the case. Han Xiao understood. Simply put, the tyrant was holding a gathering in the Shattered Star Ring for everyone to go and make friends. The difference was that most of the people who attended were of high status. Together, they could even influence the development of the Shattered Star Ring. Holding such a gathering and turning it into a tradition among the upper echelons. Indeed, the tyrant was an ambitious person. "So, you're going to attend the tyrant's gathering too?" Han Xiao was a little surprised. Floating Dragon had always been neutral, and with Ames' personality, she did not seem to care about this kind of thing. "Of course I'm going," Ames said with a heavy tone. "I don't want to appear too stingy." "What the hell? What does this have to do with being stingy?" Han Zhao's face was filled with question marks. He thought about Ames' logic and finally understood what Ames meant. "I have a grudge against him, and he actually dares to invite me to the gathering and use this method to show his generosity? Damn, he dares to invite me. Does he think that I won't dare to go? If I don't go, won't I appear to be stingy? I'm going. I have to go. I'm so awesome, so why would I be afraid of him?" He felt that his guess was not far from the truth. This was the right way for Ames to open the gathering. Then, why did she bring me along? F***ck. It's because the tyrant has so many strong people under him, so Ames did not want to be outdone and purposely pulled me along. At least I'm not going to cause trouble. Han Xiaoxin was confused and could only comfort himself like this. He helplessly asked, "When is the gathering starting?" "There's still some time. We'll set off tomorrow and head to the Bloodshed Land headquarters." The Bloodshed Land was located in the Soul Cluster. If the Shattered Star Ring was a flat map, the center would be the dangerous and unstable wormholes. The space was extremely unstable, and wormholes would disappear and reappear one after another, randomly connecting to various corners of the universe. On the 2 sides of the flat map, one side was the edge of the explored universe, and the other side was the unknown universe that had yet to be fully explored. The other side was the passageway to other star fields, which required one to pass through a large stretch of desolate universe. Rista had crossed star fields for a very long time before arriving at the Shattered Star Ring from another star field. Surrounding the wormholes were the more than 10 star clusters of the Shattered Star Ring, all of which were split up by the 7 star cluster civilizations. The closest to the wormholes was the Terralam star cluster, where the scavengers were rampant. Han Xiao had stepped into it once when he was doing the Morning Star mission. The Colton star cluster and the Soul cluster were separated by a desolate universe belt, which could barely be considered a border. On the other side of the Sol star cluster was the largest star cluster, the Sedin star cluster. Sol was the sandwiched biscuit between Sedin and Colton. The surface area of Sol was long and narrow, and its area was the second largest in the shattered star ring. In terms of politics, the star cluster civilization that controlled Sol was called the Clent Kingdom, and the star cluster civilization that ruled Colton was called the Amethyst civilization. These two civilizations were neighbors and had built many large stargates in each other's territory. Ghodora's Stargate was built by the Amethyst civilization. The tyrant's bloodshed land was an important guest of the Clent Kingdom. With a star cluster civilization behind them, the tyrant's gathering had both the influence of a beyond grade A and the status of a star cluster civilization. That was why so many people gave them face. So, we're going to the Sol cluster, right? Han Xiao sighed. Take my spaceship. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.